Part 98. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 974. The setting sun dyed the clouds, the tall buildings and trees of the garrison into orange. In the office in the evening, the company was walking in front, and the girl following her had dark green and refreshing short hair, a loose knotted t-shirt, the black bra shoulder straps were casually exposed, sunglasses hanging on the collar, and denim hot pants underneath. At a glance, I saw the display cabinet placed on the wall. Is this the broken corner of the Yamato? Yes. Lexington happened to be out of the office, and Sugu was responsible for entertaining the two people. He glanced at the girl and was very sure that she was a ship girl. He didn't know what model it was, and the company hadn't introduced her yet. He looked at the broken horn again. Several years later, it was still emitting a faint purple light. Yubari had studied it carefully, but it was not famous. He used to doubt whether it might be radioactive. Think about the Admiral's room in the game. It seems there is. According to the setting, the game and reality are strange coincidences, so there is definitely no such thing. The girl saw another trophy placed on the display cabinet, Zwikaku's sickle. Sugu replied, yes. The girl asked, can I take it out and take a look? Usually, the little loli likes to take it out and dance around, especially Lafite, which is not such a precious thing. Sugu naturally doesn't mind, take it out if you want to see it. There were snacks on the coffee table in the office, including cookies and candies, all of which were soft, because Sugu liked them better, and a pot of black tea. The company was not polite at all. He found a teacup and poured himself a cup of black tea. He walked to the display cabinet with the teacup and noticed Sugu's gaze as he handed it over. I forgot to introduce it to you, this is Rome. Roma had already taken out Zwikaku's scythe. When he heard the company's introduction, he quickly reached out his hand. Hello, Admiral Sugu. Hello. Sugu also stretched out his hand, and the two shook hands and let go. He said, it turns out to be Rome. No wonder it always feels so familiar. Roma said, he's really good at striking up conversations. It's not a conversation, Sugu said, I have seen a Roman in the West before. Even if they are all Roma, every ship girl is unique. Roma paused and said, I was in the West before I came here. I don't remember seeing you. Where did you meet Roma? I can't remember what city it was several years ago. Sugu thought for a moment. Anyway, it's on the other side of the Mediterranean. Roman waved his hand and said, that's not me. Actually, it's not just because I have seen Rome before. Sugu said, Rome, Roma, the third Vittorio Veneto class ship, our garrison has your sister Veneto, you two the individuals look alike. The company said, it once suppressed so many deep-sea flagships, the unparalleled and powerful garrison, and two trophies such as Yamato's broken horn and Zwikaku's sickle are also kept here. In fact, the most important thing is because I heard that Veneto is here. So please let me bring you over and take a look. Roma said, although I'm a little old when I wake up, I haven't met my sister Veneto yet. Veneto should be in the coffee shop. She likes to drink coffee and read magazines in the coffee shop. Sugu said. He saw the girl passing by the office window and shouted, Houston, call Veneto come here, the cafe isn't here, it should be at the dock or dormitory. When Houston saw the guests in the office, he was not naughty, nodded and turned to leave. No, 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 there's no need to call him over. It's nothing. I can just go there by myself. Roma put down Zwikaku's scythe and ran out of the office in a hurry. Sugu could tell that she was also an energetic and carefree girl. Sugu looked at Roma's retreating back, and suddenly frowned. I always feel like something will happen. It's okay, Enterprise said, I have already reminded her that she must not be dwarfed in front of Veneto, or anything like that. Sugu recalled Roma's figure and said faintly, I think, with Roma's figure, even if she can't do anything, as long as she, as the third Veneto-class ship, as the younger sister, breathes and stands there, she will be guilty. Businesses feel the same way. Sugu thought of asking at this time, Enterprise, you came here not only because Rome wants to see our garrison, but also Veneto. What's the matter? They came from the west with Rome, could it be that they want us, should the garrison go to the west to help, Deep Sea Bismarck or Tirpitz? Enterprise said, Fortress G. I'm sorry, Fortress G can't do it. Please hire someone else even though Fortress G is super cute, no admiral can refuse her. Of course Sugu was joking. Enterprise said, I will tell your wife what you said. Okay, you win. Of course Sugu didn't believe it was Fortress G because she was entrenched in the depths of the sea. Not to mention that she took the initiative to attack human ships and cities. In fact, it was difficult for many ship girls to find her. Just like the crazed Thomas Whirlpool in the game, although he had never experienced it, entered the trap too late, and he asked, what's going on? Enterprise leaned on the display cabinet, with his hands on the table, leaning back, and his long blonde hair hanging down like a waterfall. There must be something going on. If nothing happens, can't I come to your place to play? Of course Sugu said, but as the head sister of such a large ship girl branch, do you really have time to spare so much time? The Enterprise laughed, I really just came here to have fun this time, nothing happened. Sugu said, really? The company said, really? Sugu nodded and looked up and down at the Enterprise. He was wearing white silk stockings today and had really good legs. I haven't seen the Enterprise's swimsuit yet. Enterprise squinted and squinted at Sugu, and after a moment, get out. Sugu smiled, that is, the company was familiar to everyone and often joked. Another person would never be able to say such a thing. Why is the company here? No one informed Missouri, she just happened to pass by. Enterprise saw Missouri, who had long, lazy brown hair and charming eyes. She was wearing a one-shoulder shirt that exposed her round and smooth shoulders. The two of them just liked to quarrel. She said, tisk, 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 moisturizing means not likewise, Missouri is getting younger and more beautiful. Sister, when are you not young and beautiful? Tell me. Missouri suddenly showed an embarrassed expression, forget it, you will suffer some losses, and you can do it in the Enterprise. Who said we are good sisters? Give up your husband. It's okay to give you one night, but it's only one night, so don't say I'm stingy in private. The company raised its hands and surrendered, forget it, I'm afraid of you. Now that you have become a married woman and a young woman, you are getting more and more powerful. Missouri walked to Sugu, hugged his hand, and rested her head on his shoulder. She is not shy. She wants everyone in the world to know that she is married, show off her affection in front of the company, and then ask, what's the business of the company coming here? If you don't go to the Three Treasures Palace for anything, where will the deep sea ship girl appear again? Please ask us the garrison. The company still says the same thing, I came here to have fun. Missouri said, do you have time to come out and play? I'm free, why not? Yes, I am a leader, a minister, a eldest sister, or rather, just because I am, I have more time to rest and leave everything to my subordinates. The company couldn't help complaining, you are really a couple. You both say and ask the same questions. We are husband and wife, Missouri said. The company was a little helpless, I really just came here to have fun. Missouri thought for a while, then she asked, it's done, have you found someone to take your place? This friend of mine is indeed very smart. Thinking like this, the company said, I haven't found anyone. I can't find anyone with the ability to sit in my position. There is not even someone half as good as me. Blow, you go on. Missouri paused again and snickered, I remember you couldn't blow before, but now you are so good at it. You haven't joined the town hall and become like a certain person. Enterprise looked at Sugu and said, I'm telling the truth, not some pervert bragging about being a little lowly killer. Sugu didn't mind, she was originally a little lowly killer. Are you really embarrassed to admit it? The company said, abnormal. Sugu smiled proudly. Tapping his fingers on the glass of the display cabinet, the company explained, although I didn't find anyone who could replace me, the ship girl headquarters sent someone here. The current situation is that everything is left to her, and I have time to come out and play. By the way, I brought a secretary, Yao Ying, and Roma came with Yao Ying. Hearing that I was coming here, I followed him, very casually. Sugu was surprised and said, ah, didn't you bring Rome here specially? Like Claxton. The company said, Su, do you want to be shameless? Sugu said, I remember that you still owe me Fury and Montpellier. When did I owe you? The company asked. Don't be cheating, Missouri interrupted, the last bet was between you and me. Isn't that the bet for who will win and who will lose during the avant-garde and Richelieu exercises? Asshole, you two bitches are so embarrassed to say. The company was furious, my legs were touched for nothing. Don't be angry. Sugu smiled sarcastically and added, let me put it bluntly, the company's legs are really great. The company tried to give Sugu a kick. Missouri asked, who will replace you at the ship girl headquarters? Do I know him? You probably don't know them, the company said. The newcomers who have come up in recent years, which used to give me a headache as to whether they will surpass me, are actually still my opponents. Consultant Su, what ship girl? Battleship St. George. Sugu said, another blueprint ship. She has a super good figure, not inferior to a lion. Well, she is still a little worse than a lion. Enterprise suddenly muttered to himself, she is beautiful, but I always feel that her legs are so thick. Missouri said, can't the ship girl headquarters send someone with a slightly different figure? One with no breasts and no butt. Otherwise, they will send another person here in a few years. How many years? Sugu said, give me 3 months to capture her easily. I have confidence, the company said, let's make a bet. I will never lose this time. No gambling, Sugu refused decisively. He didn't have a St. George wandering outside. Thinking of this, he quickly told the company the news that all his ship girls had returned to the guardhouse, so that he would no longer have to help keep an eye on the stray ship girls. Congratulations, the company was non-committal. Missouri asked, if the company comes this time, it won't leave, right? The company said, I just came here to play for a few days, and I have to go back. The work has not been handed over yet. It's okay, Missouri said, it's good to be sure. Wait a minute, Enterprise said, it seems I haven't agreed to join your garrison yet, right? Missouri said, my legs are touched, can you still run? Speaking of this, Roma was led to the cafe by Houston. He didn't need any guidance. He saw the one sitting in the middle of many young Lolita, holding coffee and wearing mature clothes. He was sure that it was Veneto. Walking over slowly, thinking of how to say hello. Perhaps this is a blood connection. Veneto suddenly felt something. He was reading a magazine with his head down. Then he looked up and found a girl with short dark green hair standing in front. Although he didn't know who it was, he felt so friendly. It's strange to be so friendly. At least the C-cup is actually so high. If she wears clothes that fit her well, her belly might be exposed, and she definitely doesn't recognize it. They are not from the same town, and they have never gotten along or had feelings for each other before. In fact, they are not sisters. This does not prevent Roma from shouting, Sister Veneto. Veneto said, Rome. Roma moved a wicker chair and sat down opposite Veneto. From beginning to end, Houston came over and asked Roma what drinks the guest wanted. Roma ordered a glass of beer and began to introduce himself. Where there is Veneto, Karmicha is absolutely indispensable. Karmicha likes the eldest sister very much. She looked at Roma and was surprised for a while. She asked, "Are you the second sister?" Roman was a little confused. "What is the second sister head?" Kamichia said solemnly, "The admiral is the eldest brother, and the eldest sister is the eldest sister. Since you are the eldest sister's sister, of course you are the second sister." Veneto's expression was uncertain, and he glanced at Rome again. He was so tall and so big, and he didn't have such a sister. Roma started to laugh. She was such a fun little loli. "Yeah, I am your second sister, and you are the younger sister." "Yes, I am the younger sister under the command of the eldest sister," Kamichia said boldly. "I will fight wherever the eldest sister points my finger. No matter whether I go up the mountain of knives or into the sea of fire, I will never give up." Antonio, the big Lolita, was lying on the table. She looked at Kamichia and thought, "She's just as good as a cheating sister." Roman touched Carmichael's head and asked with a smile, "Then can I command you?" "You are the second sister, so that's okay," Kamichia thought. She shook her head. "No, you are not our second sister, you are a fake." Roma said, "I am Roma, what's wrong?" Kamichia said, "If you are the eldest sister's sister, why do you look nothing like the eldest sister?" Roman said, "It's obviously very similar." "No, it's not like that." Kamichia raised her hand and gestured, "You are so tall, my eldest sister's head is only a little tall, and you are so big, my eldest sister's head is not at all." Roma glanced at Veneto. Even though she was very nervous, she still knew that there were some things she couldn't say. "I had nothing to do with the little Lolita trying to die in front of me, but it turned out to be true. I had heard that my sister Veneto was a Lolita. Although I'm just a pseudo-Loli. I can't figure it out. Are the sisters so different?" Uneasy, Sugu and others came to the coffee shop. They saw Kamichia holding her head in her hands, sniffing and looking aggrieved. She seemed to have been beaten, but she did not deserve sympathy. Veneto and Roma were talking. She looked very happy until she discovered the truth at this moment. Veneto sipped his coffee and asked casually, "Has Roma been in the combat team before?" Roman said, "Yes." Veneto nodded to himself, "It must be very good. Let's practice it." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 975. Seagulls landed on the pier, running around and pecking. The little Loli tiptoed over and suddenly let out a loud roar, which made the seagulls flap their wings and fly away. "Why are there so many people on the pier?" A few small submarines had just finished diving and climbed up the steps leading from the pier into the sea. They saw many people standing there, puzzled. "Aren't they ready to eat?" The Italian little Lolita lined up neatly, sitting on top of the high container, with their legs dangling in the air. Enterprise leans on the pole wrapped with loops of hemp rope, and his straight legs are folded together, which is extremely sexy. The town government is the worst. Bumblebee is wearing a bikini and walking on slippers from the beach to the pier. Her blonde ponytail is wet. She holds a water gun in one hand and a big inflatable B-25 in the other. Today she and Xiaoluo are again had a water fight all afternoon and found a familiar figure from behind. "Sister Enterprise, why are you here? Come and play." The company turned around and glanced at his hopelessly stupid sister, who was reluctant to borrow the B-25 for even a short while. She had to make an offer with 3 chapters and make repeated guarantees, and turned her attention back to the sea. I saw Veneto and Roma conducting exercises under the orange sunset. The battle was heating up, and pillars of water rose into the sky. Hood had not asked for trouble for several days, and he felt a little empty for some reason. Hearing the roar of artillery fire, Bismarck came to the dock from the training room. She frowned and looked at the sea. "Who is Veneto practicing with?" Rome Sugu briefly explained the cause and effect, and mentioned something maliciously. The elder sister was jealous of the younger sister, so she got into a fight. Missouri and Sugu stood side by side, shaking their heads constantly. Hard, Veneto is too cruel, that's her sister, and she shows no mercy at all. Missouri's words spoke the thoughts of everyone present. Nagato watched silently, wondering how long he could survive Veneto's attack. His face turned pale at the thought, and no, he probably wouldn't be able to survive now. You must show off your energy. The scorching sun is not a problem. You must train harder, otherwise you will never be able to catch up. On the one hand, the training level has reached the limit. Even if it is not equipped with Mk6 armor-piercing bullets, the 23 guns are not so undeserved. I spent a lot of time in the combat group and attacked a lot. Unfortunately, my level of training was not that easy to improve, and the equipment was just like that. When the sun was mostly under the sea, Veneto won easily. Bismarck crossed his arms and she judged, Veneto wins. The Italian little Lolita jumped off the container one by one. Camicia said, it's time to eat. I'm going to starve to death. The eldest sister is the best in the world, and the second sister is not good at all. Kirov put his right hand on Tashkent's head. When the girl looked at her, she shook her head. Proof of the friendship between the German and British families. Leipzig, Jade, and the enterprising sisters were whispering and talking about something. In the end, Jade was not afraid of death. She held the camera and took several photos in a row. She will definitely win the championship in the next Sichuan show photography competition. Indeed, Roma is sitting on the sea with her head raised, Veneto is standing in front of her with a 381 cannon, and the background is the sea level and half a red Sunday. The scene is really like a world-famous painting. Since guests are coming, the dinner will naturally be more sumptuous, but that's it, there's really no time. Although he was severely beaten by Veneto, Roma didn't mind. Everyone had something to say based on their ability, and there was no special humiliation. Even if the artillery shells are not loaded, the end of an exercise is still a bit embarrassing. In the cafeteria, Roma had taken a bath, and Veneto's clothes naturally couldn't be worn. Ko's clothes were fine. She was sitting at the dining table, her left hand resting on the table and holding her face, and her right hand holding a fork and shaking it. She was do as the Romans do, my eldest sister is so powerful. I'm not as good as me. I feel completely powerless to fight back. It's nothing special, it's disgusting that he has such a good figure, but it feels good to be taught a lesson. Veneto's voice was neither cold nor indifferent, mainly because of his personality. Even if the other person was his sister, he didn't show much intimacy. I found that you made several mistakes that you shouldn't have made, namely, don't be discouraged if you lose to me. Do you know how much practice I have? You won't be able to get used to this. No one in our Italian town can tolerate this. This Kung Pao chicken tastes pretty good. After a disastrous defeat on the Roman training ground, Veneto comforted her and explained her problems. There is no need to doubt the skills of the supreme cook Euxian, even a big pot of rice is no problem. Veneto recommended to her food that is more suitable for Italian taste. From these two aspects, it can still be seen that Veneto cares very much about his sister Roma. Is the eldest sister the strongest in the garrison? Roma asked as she took a piece of barbecued pork with a fork and put it into her mouth. It tasted so good. I'm sorry to disappoint you, not really, Veneto said. Not really, Roman looked around. Who is stronger than the eldest sister? So strong. There are so many, Veneto said. Look at the one in the vest, she is Bismarck. And the person sitting opposite her is Tirpitz in the North House. The one with the white hair and ponytail who just passed by our table, it's Washington. I can't count them, there are too many. Roman said, sister, don't be modest. No humility. Roman asked, who is the strongest? No one is the strongest, Veneto said, no one surrenders to anyone, and no one can guarantee that he will win. Bismarck, Richelieu, Vanguard, Lyon, even Missouri and Hindenburg, they are gradually losing caught up. Roman asked, how do you practice? Drill, 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 Veneto said. Veneto only remembered the drills, which were held every day without any attack at all, until his training level could no longer be improved, and then he was hidden away by the admiral. There is no way, even if it looks like a little Lolita, it is not a real little Lolita. As a battleship, it consumes too much and cannot be used daily. However, it is not strong enough and cannot use the firepower. I also have exercises, Roma muttered and asked, how many times have you practiced in total? It happened a long time ago, Veneto said, I can't remember exactly, there must be hundreds of games. That's not right. Roman said, as for me, although there are not exercises every day, there have been many, if not hundreds, of them over the years. Not counting attacks, I feel that they are far worse than Big Sister Tou. I don't know, Veneto said, maybe the opponents we exercise are different. This is the only explanation. Roman nodded subconsciously, yes, there are so many people in your garrison and so many battleships. And in the ship girl branch where I used to be, apart from me, there were only a few battleships, most of them sometimes I can only practice alone, or practice with a heavy cruiser or light cruiser, which is definitely not possible. You must have an equally matched opponent, a stronger opponent, so that you can make progress, Roma said. Sister, can I come over to practice with you often in the future? I also want to become as strong as my eldest sister. Veneto glanced at Roma again. The clothes on her chest were tight, and there was a large patch of white under her delicate collarbone. She smiled and said, no problem, but don't blame me for being ruthless. Roma said, it doesn't matter. Sister, feel free to ravage me. Okay, Veneto responded with a smile. As a girl, Roma naturally has a gossipy personality. She asked curiously, Sister, how long have you been joining the garrison? I don't remember, Veneto said. It must have been a few years ago. Roman hesitated, then said, is the eldest sister a wedding ship? Veneto replied, no. He likes you, you don't like him, or... Roman shook his head, it can't be that, the eldest sister is so cute. Camicia interrupted at this time, no, the eldest sister is a little girl. Marrying a little girl is a crime and she has to join the gendarmerie. Yes, Rome was infected by Carmichael and was careless for a moment. Veneto's shoulders hunched, and his hands under the dining table were clenched. Camicia had tried to die countless times, and now she had experience. She didn't wait for Veneto to pinch her mouth, jumped out of her seat, and ran out of the cafeteria as fast as she could. I can't go back to my room tonight, otherwise I'll spend the night at the small house. I'm not full yet. Let's have some midnight snack. These meatballs are delicious, how do you make them? Roma noticed Veneto turning to her, and she quickly changed the subject. Although they are delicious, they are still not as good as our Italian cuisine. When a company comes to visit, there is no reason to come in the evening and leave the next morning. Good. The next afternoon, Sugu saw the company's swimsuits. In fact, they were just about that level, nothing special. A pair of legs is great, but no one from Scharnhorst, Wisconsin, Lyon, or Uxian can lose to her. Sister-in-law, eldest sister-in-law, let's go swimming. At the same moment, Veneto also saw Roma's swimsuit. She was holding coffee with a gloomy expression. I won't go, you go. Roman asked, why? Veneto said, if you don't go, you just won't go. I'm not interested. It's such a hot day. Roman muttered. Roma's cheerful personality made it easy to make friends. Kaio wore a coat over his swimsuit and stood quietly without talking while holding a swimming ring and skateboard. Andrea's beautiful blonde hair was not tied into a ponytail and tied into a ponytail. They formed two dumplings, which were so cute. She said, "Roma, I told you a long time ago. Veneto won't go. You have to call her." Veneto always refused, and several people had no choice but to turn around and leave. Roman thought, "I still don't understand why, every ship girl doesn't like swimming, right?" Andrea said, "There are two devils on the beach. If you want to go swimming, you can definitely see them." Roman asked, "What devil?" "Helena, and Colorado." Andrea said, "You will know when you see them, they are very scary." "Oh." Andrea said, "Actually, Veneto likes swimming. She also has a strap-on swimsuit quilt, which is super revealing and bold. Haha, it's the same style as the Prince of Wales's swimsuit, but it looks better when worn on the body. Completely different. Just because the two demons are there, I dare not go there. Whenever I see them, I will definitely have a psychological shadow." Newbies in Rome don't understand, what kind of psychological shadow? Andrea looked left and right, and she called out, "Ko." Ko stopped and blinked in confusion. Andrea and Roma turned around together. Andrea was the best at bullying her sister. She poked Kaio's chest with a finger and asked Roma, "You are big and soft. Are you envious?" Roman said, "Envy. Helena and Colorado are super big, bigger than Ko, and they jump and jump when they run." Andrea said, "It can only be understood but cannot be expressed in words." "Rome, do you understand?" "I seem to understand," Roman said, "but aren't you afraid?" Andrea said, "I'll blow you away." Laughing and laughing, Roma asked again, "I never understand, why does everyone call you Aili?" Andrea said, "Don't worry about it." Veneto looked at the backs of several people leaving, listened to the faint sounds, and took a deep breath. "We stayed in the guest room for the first few days. On the last day, everyone became familiar with each other and spent the Roman night in the room in Veneto. Sister, let me tell you, as long as you rub it more, it will get bigger." Wearing a big t-shirt, Roma sat cross-legged on the bed. She was kind-hearted and had no intention of exposing wounds. "By the way, you can also eat more papaya, pig's feet." Veneto responded, "Yes. Drink more milk and grow taller." Veneto stood by the window, looking at the garrison at night, silent. She wanted to yell out, "Bastard, of course I know, why are you talking nonsense?" Roman fell on the bed and murmured, "But growing 10 centimeters taller, growing another cup size, just the same little bit, is of no use." Veneto slammed his fist against the wall. Enterprise and Roma stayed in the garrison for many days. After having enough rest, they left the garrison. From then on, Veneto's life returned to peace. Is it possible? Naturally, no one would say anything in front of Veneto. Small discussions and gossiping in private would definitely be inevitable. This is human nature. With such a huge difference in stature, are Roma and Veneto really sisters? Poor little Veneto. Rome-class battleship. Veneto happened to hear her when she was passing by. She did not choose to take out her 381 cannon, but left silently. Late at night, this is Veneto's room. Veneto threw himself on the pillow, gnashing his teeth. "Why? Bastard God. Don't let me know who the hell is responsible. In fact, it doesn't matter, there is still a chance, just grow up. It's like an ugly duckling growing up into a white swan, and when it grows up, it will definitely turn into a tall and explosive royal sister. Don't give me a chance, otherwise I will kill you all at some point, and I won't let anyone go." Veneto remembered the dream he had had before and murmured into a sweet dream. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 976. As time goes by, a person will grow up. But under normal circumstances, even if you look in the mirror every morning, you won't notice any changes in yourself. There are only a few possibilities. I don't know when I was walking on the street and met an acquaintance, and suddenly said something like, "Hey, when did you become so fat?" I ran home in a hurry and quickly found a scale to measure. This is incredible. In just a few months, I have gained so much weight. I haven't eaten anything, except 4 or 2 rice noodles in the morning, 3 small bowls of rice at noon and evening, and an occasional snack. Damn it, it looks like I have to lose weight. As expected, forget it today and start from tomorrow. Definitely, I will never break my promise, and I will definitely not do it otherwise. When I was a child, I was the little brother who followed others. I studied abroad for several years. When I grew up, I met my old classmate and was surprised to find that I was already a head taller than him. A girl transforms into an ugly duckling at 18. When she goes to college, she takes off her glasses and puts on contact lenses, changes her hairstyle, puts on a touch of lipstick, and puts on a beautiful dress. So many people start talking to her while walking on the street. When I returned to the dormitory and looked in the mirror, I realized that I could do it too. Of course, girls will not be ugly as long as they know how to dress up. Makeup is actually the art of disguise. In contrast, ship girls are magical beings, elves, and heroic spirits of battleships. They are little Lolita who will always be little Lolita, flat-chested forever, short forever, and will not grow even a little bit over time. They will change only when they realize they can't go on like this. The girl became a married woman and felt that she was different from the past. When she got up the next day, she suddenly felt more like a young woman and a married woman. The little lowly destroyer watched her senior sink and the admiral get injured. She had to stand up and become a sensible girl the next day. In short, a ship girl's appearance comes from her heart. When you want to change, or have changed, your appearance will also change accordingly. On the other hand, if you don't believe in yourself, there is no use in verbally believing. It also depends on what is deep in your heart. There is no way for a person to deceive his heart, so his appearance will not change at all, and it will remain the same. The early bird catches the worm, as the bird stood on the branches outside the window and chirped. Inside the room, Veneto woke up from his daze, scratched his hair subconsciously, turned over in bed, and suddenly realized something was wrong. Veneto clenched his fists. Yes, it was strength, and his strength became stronger. Some people have just gained strength and are so proud and complacent that they feel like the sky can pierce through them. She will not be so arrogant, but if she is the current self, she can definitely overthrow many people easily, no matter the queen, Richelieu, or lion on the training ground. Or who? Why? Obviously no new equipment was harvested. Could it be? Although she looks like a Lolita on the outside, she is actually mature, majestic and arrogant on the inside. At this moment, Veneto becomes like a real Lolita. She hugs the pillow tightly with joy and joy. I grew up, I finally grew up. By some strange coincidence, Veneto's right hand touched his neck and collarbone, going down a little bit. It was so soft. Is this his belly? Clenching her right hand into a fist, Veneto took a deep breath. No, there must be something wrong. Try it again, this time she must be more careful. Then this time she felt her ribs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think about anything, I don't dare to think about it. Veneto opened his eyes carefully, raised his hand, and found that his palm was still the same size. He didn't care, and slowly sat up and leaned against the bed, like a robot with rusty gears, lowering his head little by little. His white cotton pajamas were dotted with small flowers. Next, the tiers of pajamas cover your thighs. Are you kidding me? Where is my 3060? Accept the reality, you should have known it a long time ago, but you are still imagining it. Veneto showed a sad smile. Veneto smiled again. It was okay, no big deal. Isn't it the same for Ziwikaku and Shoukeku? And Hood, an elegant lady, the well-deserved flagship of the Royal Navy, who would dare to look down on her if she didn't seek her own death? Especially Wisconsin, even Helena was willing to be defeated in front of her. Just one word, coquettish. Don't be greedy, just grow taller, Veneto muttered silently, climbed out of bed tremblingly, and found the slippers. In the room that Sugu helped decorate, the mirror could not face the bed. This was superstitious. In fact, it is true from another perspective. When you wake up in the busy moonlight at night, you will definitely be shocked when you see the figure in the mirror. Veneto walked to the floor-length mirror in the closet and saw a cute little white-haired loli inside. He immediately punched it with his fist. Don't panic, maybe it's just not obvious, it's longer too, Veneto deceived herself. She walked to the door leading to the bathroom. Of course, there are no height lines in the adults' rooms. Each little loli's room has a height line drawn on it to make it easier for them to measure their height. Veneto's room also has a height line painted on the wall, but it was not done by Sugu. He is still not that bold. He still wants to live longer. After all, there are so many lovely wives and the most adorable little house in the world waiting for him. But it was what Kamichia did. Her butt was red for several days after that time, and no one took pity on her. Veneto found the mirror from the bedside table, kicked off his slippers, and reluctantly let go. He leaned against the wall, stood upright, and raised the mirror to take a look. It seemed, seemingly, a little shorter. Veneto suddenly felt weak all over, his shoulders drooped, his head leaned against the wall, and his body also leaned against the wall, and then slid to the ground little by little, and finally sat on the cold floor with his buttocks, his head tilted, and his hands hanging down. On the ground, there is nothing more mournful than the appearance of a dead heart. Ah! Veneto finally couldn't help but yelled. After venting, she lowered her head and covered her face with her hands. Her silver-white mid-length hair fell down to cover her face and hands. All she could see was her shoulders swaying, twitching again and again. Smoke. Who is shouting nonsense? If you are so incompetent, do you want people to sleep? Veneto's shouting could be heard by everyone in the entire dormitory building, and many people were woken up and complained. Where is the sound coming from? Many people included Sugu, who frowned. It seems to be Veneto's voice with messy blonde hair. Colorado sat up sleepily. There was no strands of hair on his body, not even a thin sheet. Oh, every time he stayed overnight in Colorado's room, he was always very tired the next day. Sugu fell down and prepared to continue sleeping, only to sit up after a second. Veneto couldn't yell for no reason, as she the admiral must be concerned about it. He wants to go and have a look. Colorado asked, Admiral, where are you going? Sugu explained his thoughts. Colorado hugged his neck from behind, and she said, Don't worry, this is the town hall, everything will be fine. Nightmare. Maybe I fell down early and got angry, or maybe I encountered a cockroach. Sugu said, Dignified ship girl, are you still afraid of cockroaches? Even a ship girl is still a girl. Veneto will definitely not be afraid, she is the eldest sister. You're still afraid of cockroaches? Colorado chuckled, remembering Sugu's behavior when he suddenly saw cockroaches. It turns out that a person can really be frightened and jump. Sugu said, I hate bugs the most. Colorado fell asleep again, and she said, the most important thing is it really okay for the admiral to go to the girls' room so early in the morning? Sugu also calmed down at this time. He believed that nothing could happen. Let's wait until we have breakfast and ask again. Hey, Admiral Colorado suddenly pushed Sugu. What's up? Colorado leaned sideways, holding the side of her face with her left hand and placing her right hand on her sexy thigh. She looked at Sugu and said, Admiral, I just checked the time. It's 7 o'clock now. It's still early. Sugu glanced at Colorado. Sister, please spare me, do Maryland and West Virginia know you are such a sister? Colorado slapped Sugu on the back, and the red fingerprints were clearly visible. What are you thinking about? Consultant Sue, isn't it? Of course not, Colorado said. It's the best. Sugu also fell asleep and thought about hugging Colorado's soft body. The collision in his chest made him distracted. He hesitated for a moment. It seems to be quite early. 8 o'clock. Andrea actually likes her sister Kayo, but this love is too strong and too self-righteous. She combs her sister's hair every morning, and today is no exception. Then the two of them walked out of the room together and saw Veneto in the corridor. Veneto, you got up so late today, Andrea saw Veneto. Kayo is a well-behaved and polite girl. She shouted, Good morning, eldest sister. Good morning, Veneto said expressionlessly. As a ship girl and a girl, Kayo is very perceptive. She tilted her head. Sister, your eyes are a little red. Only the eyes cannot be disguised through makeup. Veneto waved his hand and she explained, I didn't sleep well at night. Huh. Andrea suddenly realized that something was wrong with Veneto, and she circled around Veneto. Veneto asked, Ellie, what are you looking at? I'm not Ellie. Andrea was angry. She was no longer interested in caring about the changes that had happened to Veneto. At this point, it was just when everyone got up and went out. There were many people in the corridors and corridors. They looked at Veneto one by one and found something wrong, but they couldn't tell what was wrong. Still silver white hair, just reaching her shoulders. It's almost at sea level, without any fluctuations. It seems shorter. Is it because of the shoes? In the cafeteria, someone finally guessed, Veneto, have you grown up? Veneto hesitated to speak. The truth would always be exposed. She smiled, yes, I have grown up. Are you envious? After such a long time, someone finally grew up again, and everyone surrounded Veneto. South Dakota complained, I want to grow too, why don't I? No wonder I heard Veneto shouting there so early in the morning. Are you excited? West Virginia nodded repeatedly. I found that I was particularly excited that day when I was growing up. I kept yelling, pushing my sister to wake up, and telling her I grew up with them, and finally got beaten up by Sister Maryland. Growth, Nagato murmured to herself. She had heard of growth, but this was the first time she witnessed it with her own eyes. Although it is an aircraft carrier, York City held Bumblebee's shoulders and urged, hurry up. Veneto spread out the ship's equipment and let us take a look. Kamichia is Kamichia after all, and she never disappoints. She muttered beside her, I can't tell where my eldest sister's head has grown. She hasn't grown at all. When Veneto's eyes found Kamichia, the little loli hid behind her younger sister Avial, and she managed not to take action. Hood was holding a ginger fish cake. She was standing on the periphery of the crowd. She was also considered the number one person in the town hall. For example, she had no eyesight. She bumped Rodney with her shoulder. I remember Veneto always wanted to. I want to grow. I thought that when I grow up, I will become taller and bigger, but now I am disappointed. Ha ha ha. Marilyn's aggressive Mary doesn't care at all, and even hates the pair of fat. As a girl, she actually misses her a little bit. Why do you dislike her sister West Virginia for this? Ruhi has not grown up yet, she has self-confidence, and reality has not taught her how to behave. Wisconsin didn't care that much either, flipping her pretty short hair back. She never worried about her charm. Hood is different. She has always been very concerned about her figure. It turns out that she has always been worried about Veneto, who is under her. After all, no one can guarantee what she will become when she grows up. What should she do if she becomes the royal sister? What to do? Now I finally felt relieved, let out a long sigh of relief, and even felt a little happy. Rodney, how did you get that far? Hood suddenly found that there was no one around him. The crowded crowd opened an opening at some point, and Veneto stood there, staring closely at him. Avant-garde, avant-garde. Hood smiled dryly, shouted a few words, and found that the avant-garde was far away from him. The sun is shining and this is the dock. The Prince of Wales looked at the sea and said to himself, Hood seems completely defenseless in front of Veneto. The lion crossed her arms with her arms, making her already proud bust even more majestic. Except for Kinway, there was no one around her, because her aura was too strong, really strong. At least I am not her opponent. Why? Because of anger. But the hit doesn't seem to be very good. Nelson held Rodney's little hand. Even a small battleship must work hard to become powerful and cannot miss the drill. It's because you're shaking with anger and you can't aim accurately. Jew, unexpectedly, this didn't even hit. Hood's luck is too bad, or... Helena smiled, because Veneto dodged the attack easily. As the elder sister, O'Higgins reminded her, Helena, I find that you seem to be more and more, jumping. Stop talking, if someone hears it and spreads it to Veneto's ears, even if you are a wedding ship, it won't work. Hood returned to the dock in a state of embarrassment. She couldn't lose any more. Richelieu said to Veneto, Veneto, now you are the strongest battleship in the garrison. No one obeyed anyone before, but now. Bismarck said, shaking his head. I'm envious, Veneto, I also want to grow up and become as strong as you. Hindenburg's figure is really not bad, and he is also the first in the garrison. Veneto showed a bright smile and almost cried with joy. Now he is the strongest in the town. It's great, it's really great. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 977. At the end of the exercise, everyone left the dock one after another after talking all the way. Among them, Hood had to go back to the room to take a shower and change into clean clothes. Big Tiger, my big tiger. In the coffee shop, Kent didn't put on a maid uniform today. She was serving everyone in the coffee shop as a maid. She was lying on the round table teasing her pet, a ferocious tiger. In fact, it would be more accurate to say it was a large orange cat. Atlanta is an out-and-out black-hearted capitalist who exploits people without mercy, even his own sisters. Fortunately, there was Sugu, the great savior of the working people. The black-hearted admiral asked everyone not to stop the expedition every day. Returning to the garrison to unload supplies, it was already a thing of the past to set off immediately without delay. He was there to buy time for everyone to rest. Of course, in fact, if everyone wants to take a break, just say hello and there will never be any difficulties. Wow! The ferocious big tiger shook its head and roared, then held Kent's index finger with its furry paws and opened its mouth to bite. Naturally, it is the kind that plays, and it is very well behaved. Even so, it is still not allowed to be stuffed into clothes, otherwise there will be consequences if the stuffing is exposed. What a cute big tiger! CV-16 sat down opposite Kent and praised. No, my. Kent showed a panicked expression at that time, and his tearful eyes were about to burst into tears. I won't rob you. The cold CV-16 showed a hurt expression. He probably didn't do anything excessive to Kent. What on earth was wrong? In the corner, Missouri pulled up a wicker chair, crossed her legs, folded her thighs, and pressed her calves tightly together. She looked extremely sexy. She waved to Princeton, who was dressed as a bunny girl, and ordered a glass of iced Coke. Emphasizing the need for 2 straws, seriously, what is the principle behind Veneto's growth? It has always been Missouri's dream to become a guided missile cruiser, and by then it will definitely be the best in the world. I used to guess that a ship girl can grow as long as she unties her heart knot. Sugu shook his head. The guess was just a guess after all, and there was no way to verify it until now. Sure enough, in the game, it is relatively easy to transform a ship girl, which only requires practice, core, and resources. Needless to say, there are too many ways to obtain resources, and cores must be obtained through battles. It is quite difficult for a new admiral. Which old salted fish admiral does not have hundreds or thousands in his hands? A knot in your heart. Missouri said to itself, historically, the battleship Missouri had a smooth journey, basically no setbacks, and no destined enemies. If I have to say, because the Yamato was sunk by a carrier-based aircraft group, the battle between the most powerful battleships at sea, the duel is gone forever. Then it follows from this that I have to defeat Fukumae Yamato head-on before I can grow. Missouri looked at Sugu and tilted her head cutely, but didn't we fight last time, or do we want to win one-on-one? Sugu said, I won't allow you to fight one-on-one. What if something unexpected happens? Missouri grabbed Sugu's palm on the table and said affectionately, Admiral, don't worry, it doesn't matter even if you can't grow up, I won't be one-on-one with her. The reason is that my favorite husband is still waiting for me in the guardhouse and worried about me. I vowed to stay with him for the rest of my life and not allow any accidents. If we are destined to be separated, I will be the one who survives until the end. Leave the loneliness to me. Sugu twitched his lips, I will live well. Missouri nodded and said, it must be. If it were me as a ship girl, my heart knot. Missouri thought about it again, as a cutting-edge battleship awakening on the sea, there is no shortcomings in body, appearance, or intelligence. Join the battle team, surrounded by majesty. I am an instructor, a close comrade, and a partner, and I have never met a bad person. I have never been bullied, and I was lucky enough to meet my current husband. I am immersed in happiness every day, and I have no worries at all. Guam sat next to her and she nodded. No wonder Lexington listed Missouri as its #1 enemy. This method, tisk tisk tisk, it's incredible. Sister, you've really had enough. Wisconsin said, the dog food doesn't taste good. Disgusting, Hindenburg said bluntly, having been kicked by Missouri and now hugging his knees. Don't be envious, Missouri said, my dearest sister and puppy, I can give you some of my husband. Hindenburg snapped, who are you calling a puppy? Missouri said, whoever admits it wins. Wisconsin glanced at Sugu and then looked at Missouri, if my sister joins, my sister, are you really not afraid of losing your favorite husband? Missouri said, as long as you have the ability. Sugu listened, he didn't want to get involved. After a confrontation, the girl's sister was not as good as the young woman's sister, and finally raised her hands to surrender. Missouri leaned back in her chair and looked up at the ceiling without focusing on it. Something suddenly occurred to her. She laughed and asked, Admiral, do you still remember? Sugu said, no beginning or end, what do you want me to remember? Richelieu grew up and became Feli. On the day she grew up, didn't we discuss our opportunities together? Sugu thought about it, yes. Missouri said, when we discussed the opportunity for Veneto to grow up, I must have met 2 sisters, Rome and the Empire. I was angry that my sisters were better than me, and I was determined to kill the 2 little bitches. I don't have you 2 sisters. It seems so. Roma left yesterday, and Veneto has grown up today. Isn't it just right, Missouri said, we really got the right opportunity for her to grow up. That was just a joke. Missouri blinked and asked, my sister Roma showed up and felt aggrieved. If I teach my sister a lesson, does that count as resolving the knot? It doesn't count, Sugu said, if Veneto encounters something and figures it out from now on, and no longer cares about being short and flat, then it will be a relief. Missouri was discouraged. Sugu said, I think Veneto's growth this time is more like encountering difficulties and setbacks, not being reconciled and then exploding. It's a pity that the seed explosion failed in the end. Missouri looked at Veneto, although it has grown, it has not changed at all, which is a bit pitiful. Hey, Hindenburg said, after growing up and becoming so powerful, and suddenly becoming the #1 in the garrison, is it still pitiful? Missouri glanced at Hindenburg and said, you can't understand that kind of pain. Hindenburg asked, how can you understand? Although I haven't encountered that kind of bad thing, I can still feel it more or less, but it's just not that profound. Missouri said, Wisconsin's experience should be deeper. Sister Wisconsin called out and rubbed his forehead. Sugu followed Missouri's line of sight and saw Veneto, who was sitting alone by the window, holding a coffee cup, looking lonely, and his heart tugged. In the afternoon, Sugu saw Veneto standing on the high platform next to the lighthouse, and he walked over. By the time Sugu came to his side and stopped, Veneto had already noticed him and shouted, Admiral, before he could make a sound. Veneto asked, what are you doing here? Sugu hesitated to speak, but finally spoke, I noticed that you seem unhappy. Not happy, why are you unhappy? Veneto said, I have just grown up and become the strongest battleship in the garrison. I am very happy. Consultant Sue, are you sure? Veneto said, did the Admiral hear some random rumors, worry about me, and come over to comfort me? Possibly. Facing 381 shots, Sugu made up his mind and spoke, Veneto must be feeling very uncomfortable to still be like this after growing up. Don't hold it in when you feel uncomfortable, you must vent it out. If you want to cry, just cry. I am the Admiral, and you can do it in front of me. Veneto was surprisingly not angry, she said, the Admiral finally looks a little like an admiral. Consultant Sue, when didn't I? Admiral, don't worry. I have nothing to feel uncomfortable about. Anyway, I'm used to it anyway. Veneto smiled slightly. Sugu opened his mouth and his throat rumbled, but in the end no sound came out. The sea breeze blew over, and Veneto trimmed his messy silver hair behind his ears. Actually, to say that I didn't feel uncomfortable at all would be a lie. Sugu said, I'm listening. It's a little embarrassing, maybe a little pretentious, Veneto said. Fine. Veneto turned his head, looked at Sugu's side face, turned his head again, and spoke slowly after a moment. Everyone must be discussing today, how did I grow up? I don't know why I grew up. There are just a few reasons. It's not fair that my sister Roma has such a good figure. I want it too. I accidentally heard someone arranging me, and I thought at night that I must grow up. When I turn into a tall lady, I will see if any of you dare to talk anymore. To be honest, my sister has a childish figure, but my sister has such a good figure. I must teach you a lesson. But the lesson is a lesson. In fact, apart from jealousy, I am still very happy for my sister to have such a figure. I've heard that the imperial body is in better shape. Why? Because they are very good. They will not make the same mistake as me. They will be laughed at and criticized by everyone like me. They can wear the clothes they like. It would be weird for children to wear adult clothes, right? Wear high heels, you can wear a beautiful evening dress, dance waltz, tango, Latin with the person you like, you don't always have to sit outside and drink coffee. As a majestic battleship, she is not a baby battleship like Xiao Zai and Xiao Luo. She is only 1.3 meters tall and is always regarded as a child. I don't want to either. There are 3 major political correctnesses in the town hall. One is Black Hood, who blames her for stuffing cats, bad eyesight, and instant explosions. One is Black South Dakota, who criticizes her little fat guy and little black girl. The other one is criticizing me. Veneto shook his head again. No, there is another vanguard now, and the vanguard takes the blame. Children should go to bed early. They must go to bed before 9 o'clock and cannot stay up late. Hey, Veneto, this is your Children's Day gift. Why do you always drink coffee? This is your milk. Drinking more milk will help you grow taller. Veneto's ship is so high. If you can't climb up, let me help you up. Be careful, Veneto, be careful not to fall off the ship's suit. Papaya, pig's feet, peanuts, Veneto should eat more. Eating more will help him grow up. Need it, it will be very effective. Helena, Colorado, please calm down, Veneto is coming, be careful that the 381 cannon will blow you away. Facing the sea breeze, Veneto pursed his lips. I've been thinking, documents and official duties are no problem. I've been taking care of these little guys, as well as Andrea and Kaya. They have pretty good personalities and are good at cooking. If I were not with the figure of a child, I would definitely be a big sister like Lexington, Prestige and the Prince of Wales, who would be admired and relied upon by everyone. I want to grow taller and become an adult, but there is no way, not even growth. Veneto put his hands behind his back, lowered his head, and rubbed his toes on the ground. I was just thinking, if it's still like this after growing up, it's better not to grow up. At least I have the thought that as long as I grow up, I can do it too. Through a growth, I have jumped from a second-line battleship to the strongest in the garrison. What else is there to be dissatisfied about? I am just dissatisfied and unhappy. If possible, I would trade a little firepower for a little height, a little armor for a little bust. Admiral, you always like to talk about negative energy. Gold will always shine, and stone will never shine. I am that stone. Reality is really cruel, crushing a person's dream without mercy. Tell you, Veneto, you can't. By the way, today's growth is still the same. There is no change. Some people should be saying, poor little Veneto. I really want to beat them up, but I'm tired, really tired. Veneto doesn't want to beat anyone, he doesn't want to bomb anyone's head with 381, he just wants to read a book quietly and drink coffee quietly. Veneto took a deep breath. 381, I have never used the 381 cannon to blow anyone away, nor have I poured hot coffee on anyone's body or face. Even Kamichia, sometimes is too. If she gets angry, I'll teach her a lesson, which means I'll hit her on the head and spank her. If you think about it, I actually have a pretty good temper. I know that everyone doesn't really have any malicious intentions, it's just for fun and fun. Everyone is happy, and I play with everyone. If anyone dares to say it in front of me, I will give her a hard look, and she will raise her hands and say that I'm wrong, but, is this really good? Veneto's tone was very flat, and the more so, the more uncomfortable it became. Sugu lowered his head deeply and said, Veneto, I'm sorry, I swear never to. Veneto interrupted Sugu, it doesn't matter. If you want to be black, feel free to be black. Because being black is also a kind of liking and popularity. As long as it is not excessive, you are only allowed to be black once a day. All right. Veneto said, you actually agreed. Veneto. Sugu suddenly shouted. I don't know what to say. Sugu grabbed Veneto's shoulders with both hands, pulled her towards him, and squatted down. I want to say, Veneto shouldn't belittle himself, body size doesn't matter, it's legal. Loli is awesome. Veneto was stunned for a moment, tilted his head back slightly, and then gave Sugu a headbutt, perverted lolicon. As the sun set, someone passed by the lighthouse and saw Sugu and Veneto standing side by side looking into the distance, not daring to disturb this quiet and gentle scene. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 978. Veneto grew up and caused many disturbances, but not many, and now they are gradually calming down. On this day in July, Sugu once again walked into the warehouse to prepare for construction, naturally for the battle cruiser Constellation. Everyone was looking forward to her coming to the garrison, especially Saratoga. Every time Sugu built something, Lexington always stayed at the stone table under the shade of a tree outside the warehouse, and today was no exception. Saratoga sat next to her sister, lying on the table. The snacks were placed on the stone table. She took a piece of snack and ate it, without any energy and worried. Soon after, the warehouse door opened and Sugu walked out. Saratoga greeted him, brother-in-law. Sugu smiled and said, "Jia, congratulate me." Sure, successful, Saratoga couldn't help but take a step back. No, it failed again. Sugu just teased his sister-in-law a little. He didn't even miss the mulberry tree, but kept it in the east. Although there was no constellation, a King George V, the Duke of York or whoever appeared. Ken. Failing several times in a row was a bit discouraging. Saratoga nodded. She looked at the warehouse worriedly and saw that there was no one else there. "Brother-in-law, you have only been in for half an hour, but..." Saratoga was smiling brightly and said, "Brother-in-law, you have such a beautiful idea. How can the constellations be so easy?" Saratoga wins again today. The company left, and she still needed to hand over the work. She didn't know how long it would take to complete, so Rome naturally left with her. Now, less than a week has passed since they left, and only a few days have passed since Sugu was built, and Roma has come again. Perhaps considering disturbing everyone, I brought many gifts this time. This reckless and carefree girl definitely didn't mean that much. When Sugu asked, it turned out to be a gift prepared by the Falcon for Rome. I have long heard from companies that the cute girl with round glasses and short hair is a very good person, knowledgeable and sensible. Here Sugu warned Rome, "You're welcome, come to the garrison if you want, no need to bring any gifts, you are Veneto's sister." Roman waved his hand, "I was bothered for several days last time, and this time I came again. The kite said that I must prepare gifts as a guest. I said no need, how can I be so particular?" Sugu showed a bright smile, "Yes. Rome does not know the saying, there is no such thing as a free lunch, the wool definitely comes from the sheep." Veneto felt a headache when Rome arrived, and she was not disappointed. "What does growing up mean? Have you become so strong after growing up? What a pity, I missed it." But the appearance of the eldest sister's head has not changed at all. "What kind of growth is this?" That day, Veneto taught Roma a lesson and ravaged him on the training ground. It was over, but you did it again. It's late July. The scorching sunshine bakes the road in Sichuanjiu, the heat wave is visible to the naked eye, pedestrians are hurrying on the street, and the leaves of the landscape trees hang weakly. Sugu originally didn't want to go out. Wouldn't it be better to stay in the guardhouse? Air conditioning, cold drinks, and beautiful girls are all available, but he couldn't stand the little lolies begging. Was he really begging? Xiaozai was wearing a big loose t-shirt, with the big hem covering half of her shorts. She had cute white sandals on her feet, and she was licking ice cream in her hand. She was looking around as she walked. She was not afraid of the heat. Sugu was walking behind. When he looked at the small house, he was reminded of Bazai. During this period of time, that girl, except for occasionally going to the beach, sleeping on the swimming ring, reading comics, and staying in the guardhouse every day, didn't go out once. Old lady, pudding, golden bear, milk tea. I thought to myself as I passed by the pet shop. Fantasy. Fantasy. Let's go. Utopia gradually fell to the back. Sugu walked in front, he turned around and shouted. Although Fan Xiang's eyes were full of hope, Sugu would not buy it for her. The reason is that I bought one for her before, but she got hungry. She just ignored it on a whim and had no interest in it. She has no sense of responsibility at all. Unless you kiss yourself. Admiral. Admiral. After walking through an intersection, Sugu felt his palm being pulled. He lowered his head and saw Suk Bader, the Su master, wearing a small round hat. Admiral, let's go to that store and have a look. Sugu followed Suk Bader's gaze and saw many fishing rods placed on the wall of the store, as well as net bags, floor cages, etc. placed on the counter. The salesperson behind the counter was checking out a customer. I just help you buy so much fishing gear last time? Suk Bader said, just shopping, not buying. Sugu still shook his head. Suk Bader puffed his face and kicked Sugu's shoe. It was a big store that not only sold fishing gear, but also sold many other things. It seemed that the insect catching nets, breeding cages, etc. of the little lowly in the town government were all bought here. Xiaozai had no interest in fishing gear. When she saw the things displayed in the shop window, she pressed her whole body against the glass of the window. Admiral, what is this? Tensugu thought, doesn't he know this? Of course Xiaozai knew. She turned around with bright eyes. Admiral, why are you back so early? Everyone usually goes out and will never return to the townhouse until evening. Bismarck greeted everyone as she walked towards the dock. Really, this method of acting like a spoiled child is so shameful and rogue. Sugu tilted his head and motioned for Bismarck to look behind him. Xiaozai was carrying a big backpack, Xianxiang was also carrying one, Suk Bader was dragging a bag, and Sister Miao, look at the tent, we are going to camp outside today. Xiaozai turned around and showed Bismarck his backpack to show off. Until the afternoon, Sugu took the lead, followed by a row of little Lolita, not only the few who went to Chuangziu's small house during the day, but also others, including Siu Xing and Mahan, Z17 and Z18. Big box, bickering while walking, girl Javelin joins in the fun. Admiral, what are you doing? Wichita put on sunscreen and slept on the beach to bask in the sun. Of course, she took off all her clothes. Sugu glanced at her and didn't know whether to remind her or not. Girl, don't get up, you've seen everything. Camping, Lafayette responded while walking in goose step, raising his hands in the air. Camping, Wichita said to herself. She noticed that Sugu's gaze was intense. After a few seconds, she looked away. Suddenly she realized what she was doing and hurriedly got down. Normally she was very bold, but now she had learned to be shy and could no longer be bold. Admiral pervert. Sugu felt a little innocent, he even looked away, but he was still a pervert? Continuing walking, at a place far away from everyone swimming, Xiaozai said, Admiral, let's set up a tent here. No, Sugu is a jack of all trades who knows everything but is not proficient in anything. This place is too close to the seaside. Although it is not there now, when the tide gets higher, the tent will be flooded. Xiaozai walked several meters away from the sea, then it's better here. Sugu said, it still doesn't work, keep walking and go up a little further. Xiaozai walked away again and said impatiently, it can be done here. Barely. Of course, Sugu didn't just come to help. He also wanted to participate in the camping. He bought a tent specially. At this time, he found a suitable location and put down his things. First lay down the water floor cloth holding the instructions. Xiaozai shook his head. This, Cushing held up something. No, Xiaozai said, that of yours is a blanket. I didn't buy a sleeping bag specifically, so I just made do with a blanket. It's summer now, and even if it's cold at night, it won't be that cold. But it's really not possible. The town guardhouse is right next to it, and it only takes 10 minutes to walk back. In the end, it was still a dream to find a waterproof floor covering and lay it on the beach. Xiaozai commanded again, Now start laying out the inner tent. Let me take a look. Sukbader found the inner tent and leaned next to Xiaozai to read the manual. In fact, they had read the manual countless times on the yacht when they returned to the governor's house. Sukbader spread the inner tent on the waterproof floor, and the small house screamed. Inverted. It's still the other way around. The door should face the sea. Don't make any noise. Sugu was right next to him. Even though it was afternoon, the sun still refused to let go. He wiped the sweat from his forehead. He had already laid out all the water covers and inner tents. He had camping experience, so this was just a minor problem. Wearing the skeleton was a difficult step, and Sugu struggled for a long time. Next, it was a waste of his efforts to hold up the inner tent. The floor mat should be folded and tucked into the inner tent to prevent water accumulation on the floor mat when it rains. Putting up the outer tent, nailing the camp pegs, and the last step is to pull the camp rope. It's finally completed. Yeah, very good. U-47 walked around the tent and nodded with his hands on his hips. Although I haven't done anything, I have worked hard for myself. Sugu held his chin and nodded, then looked at the little Lolita. They were still struggling. The sun on the beach was dazzling, and Sugu decided to try his results. He lay in the tent and looked at the sea in the distance through the screen window, watching the little Lolita set up the tent. I have to say that the Z-17 is quite ferocious. If no one is yelling around, it will definitely break a few bones. The zipper sounded suddenly, and Helena, wearing a bikini, got into the tent. I haven't slept in a tent yet. Sugu understood what Helena meant, but he really didn't want to. He wanted the little Loli to sleep with her. Even if the little house has its own tent and fantasies, Cushing doesn't have it, Claxton doesn't have it, Fishy doesn't have it, and many little Lolita don't have it. Colorado also got in. I used to set up tents and camp on desert islands when I was at the frontline headquarters. I miss it so much. Helena and Colorado looked at each other, twitched their lips, and turned their heads at the same time. Not a moment later. West Virginia, what are you doing squeezing in? Stop squeezing in. Wichita, get out. Sugu was lying on the ground. He couldn't get up because he was pinned down. Maryland held the back of his head with both hands. Sharon came over and saw 4 or 5 people crowded in the small 2-person tent. The tent is going to collapse. When the sun sets and the dim glow of the sun shines down, all the tents are finally set up. Since I decided to camp, I naturally didn't eat at the townhouse in the evening, but chose to have a picnic on the beach. Lighter. Where's the pot? You guys should be smarter. Long Xiang, shut up. 2 Y-shaped pieces of wood are nailed into the beach to ensure that they will not fall down easily. Then the pot is placed on a horizontal piece of wood and placed in the Y-shaped groove. Dry firewood is placed underneath to make a fire for cooking. A large log is split into 4 sections with an axe, and the sections are placed equally apart. Dead leaves, hay, and dead branches are stuffed into the gaps between the sections to make a stove. Light the fire, put the iron pot on it, and put in the ingredients that Yuxian has prepared long ago, including beef, mushrooms, enoki mushrooms, winter tofu. Wouldn't it be weird to eat hot pot in the summer? Sugu originally wanted to have dinner with a bunch of little Lolita. He looked around. Helena was sitting next to her with her knees crossed. Saratoga, Colorado, Wichita, West Virginia, etc., seemed to have been prepared for them. Ready, he reminded, we are ready to eat. Why don't you go back? I wonder how good the Admiral's craftsmanship is. Wichita picked up a pair of chopsticks and picked up a piece of fat beef. Sugu said, no. Wichita held one side of her face and squinted her eyes. Well, it's obviously good. I'll have another piece. I'll have a taste. I'll have a taste too. Just like this, Sugu looked at the few green vegetables in the pot and said angrily, are you bandits? Sugu took the bowl and walked to the small house's tent. He decided to be a bandit, and then the others followed him. When the little loli spotted the group of people, she showed a panicked expression, but it was of no use. Locusts pass by and no grass grows. Sugu had eaten and drank enough, I thought about it, otherwise. In the evening, a barbecue party was held on the beach, and the excitement lasted until late at night. During this period, Sugu held Xiaozai in his arms. Under the starry sky, the sea breeze at night was a bit strong. The wind whistled loudly, the waves rose and fell, and unknown insects chirped and chirped. It had been a long time coming. He told everyone a story. The little loli had already gone into the tent to sleep, and the others moved their bodies, licked their heads, and touched their stomachs one after another and left one after another. There were only a few tents and could not accommodate a few people. Beside the still burning bonfire, Sugu put down his beer and poked the fire with a branch. When sparks appeared, he took out his pocket watch and said, "It's 11 o'clock. There's no way to go on like this, rock, paper, scissors." Missouri glanced at everyone and spoke slowly, and then she was the first to be eliminated. "The final winner is, anyone is fine, it's not bad for Sugu." The next day, Sugu woke up at 6:30 in the morning and found that he wanted to get up early and do warm-up exercises in front of the sea. "I stopped having a picnic outside in the morning. I packed everything and returned to the town hall at 8 o'clock. In the office, Lexington was cleaning the table. When she saw Sugu, she smiled and asked, "How was it?" "Honestly, it's just so-so," Sugu said. He walked to the wall calendar. "Tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, the Sichuan Show Fireworks Festival is going to start. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 979. The fan is broken, the curtains fall down, or the chair legs are broken. Of course there is no problem in asking the admiral to handle it. Sugu is good at water, electricity, carpentry, and all. In any case, the reputation of the head maid is more reliable. Why does U505 look so depressed? Me, I had a fight with the big mackerel. Tell it to my sister. Well, that's it. Don't worry, the big mackerel won't care, but U505 still needs to apologize properly and let me teach you how to do it. Does York City have anything to do with me? I want to ask Lexington to borrow the bomber a -2 for use. I swear to God, I promise to return it to Lexington this afternoon. I will do what I say and I will never regret it. When I saw York City's embarrassed expression, I thought it was something. I didn't expect it to be that simple. If York City wants to use a -2, just take it away. There is no need to rush and return it to me in the afternoon. You can return it when you are done with it. Give it to me. Thanks, Lexington. You're welcome. York City is my lovely sister. Sister Lexington, you are my biological sister. U96, do you want to eat? Well, come, sit next to me, and we will eat together. Lexington is an angel. This is the consensus of most people in the garrison. She is a gentle, generous, virtuous, and trustworthy sister. Even the Japanese have to admit this. They can't say anything wrong about her becoming a secretary ship. The most they complain about is her. In a word, it must be fake and hypocritical. 10 times, I promised you 10 times. The admiral won't want to go back on it. No way. In Sugu's opinion, Lexington was a bit of a devil occasionally. Gaga is still little. Don't worry, Gaga. In addition, in the eyes of many insiders, Lexington is really not a good sister in some aspects. Of course, there are also many reasons why a person is too cowardly. Otherwise, he may not be able to compete with his sister and cannot get first blood, and he will not be able to get first blood anyway. Will be reduced to where we are today. In contrast, in this aspect, Ziwihi is an absolutely good sister. She is one of the top 10 figures in the town. There is no plastic flower sister, no biological sister, no sister, no sorry, I want to win this round. She seizes every opportunity for her sister. Blow the pillow wind, run around and persevere to create opportunities for my sister. The story takes place the day before the fireworks display. Ruhi, why did you bring me here? Ruhi pulled Sugu to the two sisters' room. To capture the thief first, capture the king, and to shoot the man first, shoot the horse. Ziwihi pushed open the wardrobe, and with a swish sound, the door went all the way to the bottom. Shiro Wujao, wedding dress, nun, Taisho lady, Kyoto uniform, yukata and navy. The admiral can choose the uniform as he pleases. Admirals have admiral uniforms, and ship girls naturally have their own uniforms, which are similar to admiral uniforms. They are also white, but the badge on the big cap on the head is different. The epaulets and sleeves of the clothes are also different. The summer clothes are also changed from trousers to skirts. Sugu asked confused, what do you mean? Ruhi said, fireworks display, I hope you and your sister. Before Sugu could speak, Ruhi closed the wardrobe again, squirming and blushing so much that he almost bled. After a moment, he gritted his teeth and said, I don't want you to get married now. I promise you that I will never go back on my word. As long as you promise, no matter what kind of play it is, I will play with you. Okay, I agree with you. Sugu put his hands on Ruhi's shoulders. As a gentleman, he was not moved because of Ruhi's promise, but mainly because Ruhi had already reached this point. In this case, he refused categorically, and there would be no good consequences. He just had no choice. Historically, unlike other countries in the world that often use fireworks as a foil for festival celebrations, most firework displays in Japan are simply held for people to watch, and kawaii is similar. Although the fireworks rise into the sky, they can be seen from most places in Sichuansho. The fireworks display is held at Yangqiao, and the best viewing spots are on both sides of the river dam. In addition, the streets along the river are packed with hundreds of food stalls, game stalls, and small handicraft stalls. If you don't take a stroll, you can't say you have participated in the fireworks display. On a hot summer night, the evening breeze blows away the heat, and the bridge lights reflect the sparkling lake water. The streets beside Yangqiao are full of people and brightly lit, and the lively atmosphere overflows and infects passers-by. Beizai has no interest in the so-called fireworks display, so he might as well stay in the room and read comics. Royal Oak is also a homebody, she would rather sleep in her room. CV-16 doesn't like excitement, and he hasn't finished the detective novel yet. In the guardhouse, there are not too many people who are interested in fireworks displays, but certainly not many. Others only wear regular clothes, mostly yukata in Japanese style. Sugu saw Fei Ying's yukata again, and was impressed by the contrast. Yuki Kaze is wearing a sky blue yukata, her hair is tied into two buns. Yuki Kaze chino? Mutsu was just a coquettish person, because she was fully dressed in her yukata outside the tutelary mansion. Fuzu is wearing a plain yukata, which is so big. There is also Shokaku, wearing a blue yukata tied with a single belt, wearing wooden clogs on his feet, a fan on his waist, and his long hair tied up. Feel free to have fun before the fireworks show begins. The precautions have already been explained. Let's go first. Akage waved her hand, and she and Kaga left first. She took a fancy to a small stall, and the taiyaki looked great. In fact, the reason they came here was not for the fireworks, but to have a great time while shopping, eating and drinking. Kagaya-sama, let's go. Fubuki is also a foodie. She has already eaten it, with apple candies in one hand and marshmallows in the other. Sister Nagato, we are leaving too. Mutsu held his sister Nagato's hand and glanced at Ziwihi before leaving. Ziwihi promised, slut, it's not impossible for me to support you in becoming a wedding ship, as long as... She remembered clearly. She is definitely a difficult character, not so easy to deal with, and must be dealt with in advance. Xiaozai pulled Sugu's pants and pointed at a stall. Admiral, Admiral, I want to eat that, takoyaki. Before Sugu could say anything, Ruhi nudged him with his elbow as a reminder. However, Xiaozai had no way to refuse. The way he raised his head and stared blankly made people unable to help themselves. Sugu whispered, it's not in a hurry. Ruhi said, just remember. Remember. Takoyaki, I want to eat it too, Ruhi said, and she followed Sugu. Xianghe followed his sister closely, looking around as he walked. Your takoyaki, thank you for your patronage. Xiaozai quickly got a box of 6 takoyaki. She ate one, and Sungxian also ate one. Lafite was still in line, and when she was about to eat the second one, she thought of something, poked a takoyaki with a toothpick, raised it, and shouted, Admiral. Sugu was stunned for a moment. Xiaozai was indeed a healer. He hurriedly bent down. For the first time, I discovered that takoyaki is so delicious. Thank you, Xiaozai. After eating, Sugu squatted on the ground, held Xiaozai in his arms, rubbed Xiaozai's beautiful short pink hair, and kissed her such a cute face. Don't kiss me, Xiaozai wiped his face with his sleeve, slobber. Catch goldfish, catch goldfish. Xianxiang saw an old man in a white coat sitting behind a water tank at a small stall next to him. There were several adults standing in front of the water tank, and children squatting beside the water tank. She cheered, Admiral, let's go fishing for goldfish. Fishing for goldfish, goldfish man, Mahan muttered and suddenly laughed. Sugu couldn't refuse the little princess fantasy. After paying, I dreamed of getting 3 paper nets and a bowl. Cannot be done. Broken again. Ah. The paper net used for fishing for goldfish is naturally very easy to rot. It's just a distraction. If the paper net is put in the water and forgets to pick it up, then when you pick it up again, you can't see anything. If you move a little fiercely, or the goldfish struggles, another paper net will be ruined. The fantasy exhausted the paper net, and there was no harvest. He turned to look at Sugu, pitifully, Admiral. Sugu paid again, this time simply asking for a few more paper nets. After 2 more failures, the dream became anxious and the paper net broke faster. I'll come, let me come, you can't do this, Xiaozai shouted. Xiaozai failed, and many people failed. Sugu couldn't bear it anymore, so he stood up and said, let me do it. Sugu moved his joints and picked up the paper net. Which one do you want? This one, Kong Xiang pointed to the largest goldfish. No problem, just this one. After Sugu was exasperated, he shook his head. Generally, when fishing for goldfish, you don't start with the biggest and favorite fish. It's not easy to catch them. You have to start with the smaller fish. Sugu picked up the paper net and started to show off again. Before the target is found, the paper net cannot touch the water. It is at an angle of 45 degrees, which has the least resistance. First drive the small fish to the corner, like me, and then start fishing from the head of the goldfish, when the upper body enters the net. Sugu held the empty paper net and said, I'm a little anxious. When the 10 paper nets were exhausted, Sugu still had no harvest and led everyone away. He shook his head, although everyone wants to make money, this is a bit too greedy. As soon as it touches the water, the piece of paper will break. Okay, how can you get such thin paper? Sugu said, let's switch to another one. Next time we play, we'll buy a few to test the quality of the paper net. If it's too bad, we'll leave. Sugu picked up Xiaozai and complained, we helped him do so much business, but in the end he couldn't bear to give us one. It's stingy. Ziwi, he scoffed from the side. Fantasy saw something again. Sugu accompanied the little Lolita to play fishing and candy carving. This time he showed off his power to regain a little face, and then bought them masks, including Fox, Cat and Shura. At this time, Ruhi finally couldn't bear it. He pulled him aside and said, "Admiral, you won't forget it?" "What?" Sugu didn't react for a moment. Indeed, he was immersed in happiness. "If you don't tell me, I really forgot." "Idiot," Ruhi scolded Sugu, and she said, "Wait a minute, you take your sister to buy snacks, and I'll take Xiao Zai and the others to play games. When you come back after buying snacks, you will definitely not find us, because I took everyone away, so you become two people." Ruhi said, "You don't need me to say the rest, you go shopping with my sister and watch the fireworks." "Is this really useful?" Sugu said, "I don't have a problem. The main thing is that your sister thinks it's not enough. So you have to work hard." Ruhi said, her words suddenly stopped, "Where is sister?" Sugu looked around. The little Lolita gathered in front of the food stall, but Xianghe was missing. "Weren't you there just now?" "When was it just now?" Ruhi said, "My sister is a road addict, and she can easily get lost if she is not careful." Ruhi was unreasonable, "It's all your fault." "Okay, blame me." Sugu felt a little aggrieved and said, "I looked back, I shouldn't have gone anywhere. Go quickly and find my sister. If you can't find her, don't come back, and if you find her, don't come back." His sister Xianghe was lost, but Ruhi wasn't really worried. "It's true that my sister is a street idiot, but she's not a fool without common sense. As a ship girl, you don't have to worry about meeting bad guys. No one can be the opponent of a ship girl with superhuman abilities." Returning along the original path, Sugu still spent a lot of effort to find Xianghe, and saw her standing under a big tree from a distance, with her hands folded in front of her belly, looking dignified. Before Sugu could walk over, he saw a man walking up to Xianghe, seemingly trying to strike up a conversation. Xianghe shook his head and the man walked away. When he got closer, he could see Xianghe's flushed dimples and the fine beads of sweat on her nose, which showed that she was still quite anxious. "Xianghe, I found you, why did you disappear suddenly?" Xianghe replied, "I don't know why, but I noticed you were missing while walking, so I stood on the roadside waiting for you." Sugu said, "Yes, don't run around if you get lost." Xianghe suddenly felt a little shy. "I used to get lost a lot, and I always waited for Ruhi to find me like this. Now that he has found someone, he no longer has to worry." Sugu laughed and praised, "Awesome." Xianghe lowered his head at that time, and the back collar of his yukata was open, and his watery skin could be seen. Sugu did not continue teasing, he said, "Let's go back." "Good." Sugu walked in front, Xianghe followed. There are vendors one after another, selling all kinds of snacks and handicrafts. There are also vendors carrying goods while shouting. In front of the song and dance performance, there are circles of spectators, including a poor single dog alone and a family of 3 holding hands. Female high school students, and couples cuddling together. There were quite a lot of pedestrians on the street. When Sugu turned around, he suddenly found that Xianghe was missing again. After searching carefully, he found that Xianghe was standing in the crowd, looking around. Sugu raised his hand and waved, shouting, "Xianghe." Xianghe quickly walked to Sugu and explained, "There are many people. After all, the annual fireworks display must be very lively. In addition to the citizens of Sishuangziu, there are also tourists from other places." Sugu didn't say much to avoid hurting Xianghe's self-esteem. "There are really too many people," Sugu muttered again. Xianghe nodded and suddenly saw a hand stretched out in front of him. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 980. In fact, Ruhi was still a little worried when Sugu left alone. She tried her best to stretch her neck and look around. Once she finds that she is separated from everyone and is lost, her sister will wait in place, but when she finds out that she is lost, she still doesn't know where she has gone. Suddenly I was a little worried that the Admiral would disappear again, just like before, leaving everyone searching and waiting. Of course I know that I won't. Maybe I can see that he really loves everyone. It's true that once bitten by a snake, he will be afraid of well ropes for 10 years. The question is, will he get lost like his sister, or be in danger? Money. Xian Xiang stood on tiptoes and opened her hands, and a few coins lay quietly in her palms. The boss with a white towel hanging around his neck took the money and handed pieces of charcoal grilled sari to all the little girls. Among them, Xiao Zai took 3 pieces of sari alone. She walked to Ruhi and handed a piece of sari. He handed it over and asked, "Sister Ruhi, where is the Admiral? He has something to do, so he left. Let's play by ourselves." Ruhi took the sari from Zai and suddenly thought that no one seemed to have noticed that his sister Xianghe was also missing. "Wait for me here." Ruhi took a bite of the sari, but it didn't taste good. She was still worried and planned to go back and take a look. Ruhi walked back and passed a shop selling souvenirs. Standing on the steps in front of the store, he saw Sugu and Xianghe. They were holding hands and walking towards this way. Although the fingers are not intertwined, it is very good. After confirming that there was no problem and feeling completely relieved, Ruhi hurriedly walked back and started shouting, "Xiaozai, Utopia, and Lan, where do you want to go? Come back to me. We have to leave, let's play a game of hoops. The grand prize is an oversized doll." After walking across the street for a while, Xiaozai said, "No. Why not? I obviously saw it." I was dazzled. Ruhi scratched his hair. Her performance was decent, as if it was true. She looked around again. "There, let's go play that one with cork. Plug the gun and shoot the prize, and if you knock it down, take the prize." When Sugu came back with Xianghe, he saw a couple standing in front of the stall. Because the stall owner was fanning the fire, the smoke floated over. He covered his mouth and nose to avoid it, but the girl with pretty short hair was nowhere to be seen. Wearing a blue yukata decorated with many flowers, there is also a noisy little loli. Sugu said, "It's gone." He must have run away. Sugu had already let go of his hand. Xianghe felt his palms soaked with sweat. He stretched his palms and she concluded, "A long time ago, we made an appointment to pick out a wedding dress together. I said I have something to leave, you guys can figure it out." I quickly disappeared around the corner and left myself to the Admiral. That was the first time. Similar things happened from time to time in the future, which makes people feel headache and helpless. I do care a little. It would have been nice if I didn't refuse the ring at first, but it was difficult to say anything afterwards. In any case, it doesn't have to be a wedding ship. It doesn't matter whether I do it or not, as long as I can see the Admiral every day and stay with him. Enough. Sugu, as an insider, Ruhi wants to create opportunities for us. Xianghe said, "I don't know how many times I told her, but she still does this stupid sister." "Good sister," Sugu said, and he suddenly laughed. Xianghe asked, "Admiral, why are you laughing suddenly?" "Actually, Ruhi found me a long time ago during this fireworks display." Sugu said, "Well, Xianghe, do you know what price she is willing to pay for you?" "I don't know, anyway, it must be those messy ones." The two sisters are so close that they usually talk about everything. Ziwihi once told Xianghe what it was like to be a married woman and a married woman. Xianghe thought of something, and a blush appeared on his face involuntarily. Xianghe whispered, "The Admiral is really a pervert." "It's Ruhi, it's none of my business." Sugu said, "I'm innocent." Xianghe said, I don't believe it, the Admiral is. Okay, yes. The bustling streets are filled with the sounds of children running and jumping, pedestrians talking, and vendors shouting. Since the vehicle was blocked in advance, there was no sound of the siren. The river beside the street is not blocked. There are bamboo rafts, awning boats, yachts, cruise ships, and a lot of whistles. Even though it was summer, it got dark late, and by this point, it was completely dark. The street lights are like upside-down teacups, casting goose yellow light. The red, green, and yellow neon lights hanging upstairs, hidden in the trees, and placed on the roadside have already lit up. Sugu took out his pocket watch and looked at the time, 7:30, there's still half an hour left. The fireworks display at Sichuan show starts at 8 o'clock and lasts until 9 o'clock. It has never changed in so many years. As long as it is willing, the garrison can easily obtain some locations that are conducive to watching the fireworks display through influence, such as riverside restaurants, high-rise buildings, or cruise ships, but that is not interesting. Someone must have taken a seat by the river embankment, put out mats and put out snacks. Just wait until the time passes. Sugu looked at Xianghe. Shall we go for a walk? Don't get lost again. Sugu once again stretched out his hand towards Xianghe. Xianghe hesitated and put his hand on Sugu's. Sugu said, let's go. Xianghe bit his lip subconsciously. As a road idiot, he couldn't tell the difference between east, west, and north. As long as he was in crowded and lively places, he would often get lost. Every time his sister Ruhi complained, she would hold his hand like today. This time, it felt like completely different. As they walked, the two chatted casually. To be honest, I have never figured out why Xianghe is such a crazy person. Xianghe said, I don't know either. Historically, the aircraft carrier Shokaku never lost its way. For example, she wanted to go here and ended up running there. Sugu thought about it for a while, but he had no impression at all. The most impressive thing was that there is only one wife on the Coral Island. The battleship is a battleship, and the ship girl is a ship girl. It's different. The Admiral seems to be particularly obsessed with history. Xianghe said, it's true that I am a road idiot, this is me. I heard that there is another Xianghe, he's not a fool, but a calculation idiot. It takes a long time to calculate slightly more complicated arithmetic problems. History is a bit particular, Sugu said. As the victim, is there a Xianghe who is not the unlucky one but the lucky one? Yes, Xianghe said, I am. You, Sugu said, you are better than Hood, Fuzu's sisters, Mutsu, and Shinano. You have lost 10 times in a row in rock, paper, scissors. You don't have a single flower card in Landlord. You just hung the quilt on the roof to dry. Oh my god. It just gets dark, there are too many such things. Xianghe said, isn't Xianghe lucky enough to meet the Admiral? Since when did Xianghe become so good at talking? Sugu said, if you flirt with me, you have to be responsible. Xianghe smiled slightly. Sugu modestly said, it's unlucky to meet such a bad admiral like me. Shokaku said, the Admiral is not a bad admiral. Yes, tall, handsome and gentle, the best admiral in the world. Sugu nodded seriously. Xianghe said, the Admiral has started again. Sugu said casually, I heard from Ruhi that Xianghe often gets lost and often encounters people who are entangled with him. So it's bad luck. It's not bad luck, Xianghe is so beautiful and cute. Sugu turned to look at Xianghe, wearing a suitable yukata with his hair in a bun, taking small steps. His intention was naturally to praise Xianghe's charm, but seemed to blame him a bit. The smell of victimhood is in it. Fortunately, Xianghe didn't pay attention, no. Ruhi also said that you have to have her come to your rescue every time, with a series of cool lower uppercuts, beautiful elbow strikes, and sharp whip kicks. Xianghe said, the younger sister of the martial arts faction. Sugu reported, violent woman, I have been beaten by her several times. Xianghe said, it must have been the admiral who bullied Ziwehi first. No, how dare I bully her, Sugu said, she is indeed a sister, so biased towards her. I'm a manager, not a bride. Is it true? Sugu remembered again, I heard Ruhi say once that Xianghe used an arrow to pierce someone's palm. Xianghe said, because that person wanted to do something to me. Sugu admitted that the gentle and virtuous Xianghe was by no means weak. Judging from her usual bow and arrow movements, she also had an iron-blooded side. As he continued walking, Sugu suddenly stopped and turned around. Xianghe, have you noticed? It seems that someone is following us. Xianghe said, Ruhi. Ziwehi is a habitual criminal and the first suspect. Probably not, Sugu said, Ruhi and those troublesome little guys, it seems like she can also entrust it to others. It's really not a problem to find clues and be wary. Seeing the opportunity, Sugu suddenly turned his head. He didn't see Ruhi, but found Leipzig holding a camera and sneaking around. He brought the camera to take pictures of the grand fireworks display. Unexpectedly, he became a paparazzi, and the two of them faced each other. After looking at her for a moment, he made a threatening gesture towards her, if you dare to follow her, don't blame me for being rude afterwards. Xianghe turned around and couldn't see anyone anymore. She asked, who? Sugu said, who else, Leipzig. Sugu discovered Leipzig, but there were many things he didn't know. Sister, look at my brother-in-law. Wearing a sleeveless dress, Saratoga stood gracefully on the embankment, holding Lexington's arm, and complained, I didn't see it all of a sudden, what a sneaky cat. I'll go say hello to them, Saratoga thought to herself, wondering if the two of them would be embarrassed, it would be fun. Lexington grabbed his sister and shook his head. Hindenburg, don't move. Missouri helped Hindenburg put on the mask, then picked up a straw hat and put it on her head. Finally, she held her chin and nodded, yeah, it's really stupid. Me, Sue, Lee, Hindenburg said every word, took off his straw hat and pressed Missouri's head hard. In terms of being sharp-eyed, Wisconsin usually means that no matter who Sugu is with, sitting with the unicorn in the secret garden, rubbing Santiago's cute face, teasing Dumpling Essex, she knows everything. In the past, the bald eagle Bell-Macon flew in the sky and overlooked the garrison, so that was fine. Later, it was sanctioned, and no matter who begged for mercy, it was of no use. It was only allowed to fly in the sky outside the town hall, otherwise it would be imprisoned in a small black cage. Sugu wondered more than once whether Wisconsin stood on top of the lighthouse with a telescope all day long, paying attention to every move that happened in the garrison. But as for the lighthouse, I go there often, and Helena, Mutsu, and Colorado have never met her. Sister, I saw your husband and Xianghe holding hands. Just hold him. Missouri wanted to bully Hindenburg, so she just glanced at the street without commenting. After all, she expected someone to have at least 50 marriage ships. No, except for the little lowly and young girls who are getting married and want to join the gendarmerie, we will definitely win them all. Smelling the aroma coming from the roadside stall, Sugu was actually a foodie. He asked, Xianghe, do you want to eat something? Xianghe shook his head and refused. The old man pushed a tricycle with a large modified oil drum on it. Sugu bought roasted sweet potatoes and gave half of them to Xianghe. This time Xianghe did not refuse and took it well. Sugu was tearing off the skin of the sweet potato when he suddenly said, I discovered Akagi and Kaga. Xianghe asked, where are they? There, they eat conveyor belt sushi there. Sugu pointed to the small shop on the roadside. Akagi was sitting at the counter, sushi one after another, and Kaga had several bottles of sake in his hand. Xianghe responded, suddenly worried, for no other reason. Sugu did not disappoint Xianghe, he said, ignore them, don't disturb them, just let them eat as much as they want. The two of them continued walking, and there were a row of stalls along the street, with a dazzling array of products, including masks, folding fans, scented candles, various handmade jewelry and ceramics. Sugu accompanied Xianghe to select, and unexpectedly but not unexpectedly, they met a salesperson with a silver tongue. "Sir, your wife is so beautiful." People who were ready to watch the fireworks had already filled the river embankment. There were men with their legs crossed, and women kneeling on cushions and fanning themselves. At this moment, Sugu thought of taking out his pocket watch. Shokaku asked the time. Sugu did not answer. He faced Xianghe with his back to the river. He raised his hand, paused, and then lowered his fingers one by one. 10, 9, 8. At 8 o'clock, the first fireworks pierced the night sky with a swish sound on time, and exploded with a bang sound, like golden chrysanthemums blooming, and then split into countless small light spots and sprinkled down, followed by more fireworks shot into the sky, lighting up the night sky, and the sky was full of fireworks. Xianghe didn't look at the fireworks. She looked at Sugu. The fireworks were the background. Sugu looked at Xianghe, thinking she was a beautiful lady, smiled and took her hand. The wooden clogs made a ta-ta-ta-ta sound when they stepped on the ground. Xianghe was held by Sugu and walked to the river, where there was a better place to watch the fireworks. By the river, two people stood side by side. The fireworks continued, with cheers, admirations, and explosions of fireworks. It was so good. In the midsummer of fireworks, there was someone he liked holding his hand. Xianghe looked at Sugu's side face. "Admiral. Real. Good. I like you." Xianghe suddenly noticed that Sugu was looking at him. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De Rong Yan. Chapter 981. The fireworks display ended, and it was already late at night by the time everyone rushed back to the town hall. The fireworks were indeed beautiful, but the round trip from the Tutelary mansion to Chuangzia was really tiring, so it was not surprising that many people in the Tutelary mansion refused to participate. As soon as he returned to the room, he kicked his clogs, and Ziwihi jumped onto the bed with his bare feet on the tatami. "Ziwikaku. I'm going to take a shower first." She pushed open the closet door, found some clothes and hugged them in her arms. In fact, Xianghe was also tired, but she couldn't act like her younger sister anyway. The clothes were placed in the bamboo basket, the yukata was taken off and neatly folded, and placed in another bamboo basket. Xianghe stood in front of the mirror on the sink. His chest rose and fell with his breathing. Xianghe's fingers slid across his neck and collarbone, and finally slid down a little bit, so he cared about his figure. After taking off the fringed hair and placing it on the sink, Xianghe reached out and took down his long hair, which looked like curly vines hanging down. "If you have short hair like my sister, you only need to sit for a while to dry your hair after washing it. For waist-length hair, whether you sit by a ventilated window or wrap it in a dry towel, it will take a long time. Although it is okay to sleep with wet hair, and the ship girl does not have to worry about migraines, it is uncomfortable to sleep." During a fireworks display, there was so much firework ash on her hair that she couldn't do it without washing it. Xianghe turned on the switch, and water sprayed out from the shower head to wet her long hair, which stuck wetly to her face and shoulders. On her back, she found shampoo and applied it to her hair, then sat on the small bench and began to rub her hair. Dong dong dong. There was a sudden knock on the door, the bathroom door opened a crack, and Ruhi's face was revealed. "Sister." Xianghe asked, "Is something wrong with Ziwihi?" "It's okay." Ruhi opened the bathroom door and walked into the bathroom. "It's been a long time since I took a shower with my sister." Ziwihi untied his belt and threw the yukata into the bamboo basket. She was not shy about exposing her energetic and infinitely beautiful body. She walked behind Xianghe and saw her sister rubbing her hair with difficulty. She said, "Sister, let me wash your hair." Ruhi washed Xianghe's hair. She looked at her sister's long hair that almost reached the floor. Her own hair did not even reach her shoulders. "It's so beautiful, my sister's hair." Xianghe said, "You can stay too." "I don't want to keep it," Ruhi said. "Long hair is too troublesome. Short hair is more convenient." Xianghe said, "Short hair is also very beautiful, and the admiral is a short hair lover and likes short hair best. I didn't cut my short hair just for him. It's been like this from the beginning," Ruhi explained. "She is really a bit arrogant." After a good wash, Ruhi stood up and took off the shower head and said, "Sister, I'm going to flush." Xianghe closed his eyes. Ruhi rinsed the foam off Xianghe's hair and suddenly said, "I saw it." Xianghe's heart skipped a beat, and she asked calmly, "What did you see?" "I saw you holding hands," Ziwi thought, still pretending. "It's not holding hands," Xianghe explained, "it's just that the admiral was worried that I would get separated again, so he held my hand." Ziwi said, "Same. All right. Those little guys are so annoying, so troublesome." Ruhi's implication was that there was no chance of following you. "How about it?" "How about what?" Xianghe actually knew what Ruhi wanted to ask. His sister is a smart girl, and as a sister, she is not a fool. Ziwi said, "How's it going?" Xianghe said, "Just do whatever you want." Ruhi pressed, but Xianghe was unwilling and there was nothing she could do. After all the foam was washed away, Xianghe stood up, and this time it was her to wash Ziwi's hair. Ruhi lowered her head, water droplets dripping from her hair onto the bathroom floor tiles. "Sister and the admiral are dating, what are you doing?" "It's not a date." Xianghe said, "I didn't play anything. I just walked around, talked for a while, and then watched the fireworks." "That's simple," Ruhi said, "be more detailed." Xianghe said, "I walked from one end of the street to the other and bought a roasted sweet potato to share between two people. The roasted sweet potato tastes pretty good." Ruhi said mischievously, "Feed play." "No." "So what did you talk about?" Ruhi said, "Marriage." Xianghe said, "The admiral complained to me. He said you were a violent woman who bullied him all day long." "What?" Ruhi yelled, "when did I bully him?" Xianghe said, "I don't believe it either. My sister is so cute and won't bully others." "Then what?" Ruhi asked, "what else did you talk about?" "There's a lot to talk about, and we have everything," Xianghe said. "Why is Akaga so edible?" The aircraft carriers Yankaku and Ziwikaku in history. Washington has grown up, Richelieu has grown up, Veneto has also grown up recently, and we sisters have not grown up yet. If it were me, I would definitely grow up if I killed CV-16. Ruhi thought for a while and said, she sneered again, CV-16 is no match at all. His training level is not as good as mine. With the title of MRS-16, it's not a real wedding ship at all. I think it's not as good as South Dakota. South Dakota also has a ring, well, it's better than South Dakota. If it's my sister, Ziwi said, if she takes Lexington down, she should be able to grow up. Close your eyes, Xianghe said suddenly. She held the shower head and the water splashed. Yes, Ruhi responded and closed his eyes, suddenly laughing. Pull Lexington down, my sister will be the secretary and eldest wife, and I will be the sister-in-law. After all, Ruhi naturally knew that as the eldest lady, Lexington's position in the guardhouse was unbreakable. Although I don't want to admit it, neither I nor my sister can do it. Only the reputation of the head maid, she is the person who knows the admiral best, and Missouri, she is the most compatible with the admiral, so she has a little chance. Xianghe smiled and said, you are not a sister-in-law, you are his wife and wife. Yes, I am, so sister, you are the sister-in-law. Ruhi paused. The sister-in-law is half of the brother-in-law, but what is the sister-in-law? Xianghe said, I wonder what we will look like when we grow up. Referring to Akage, will we become a girl like her? I don't want to become a girl, I want to become more mature. Ruhi lowered his head. There were no mountains and valleys, only hills. Grow up a little more, don't be like Veneto, poor little Veneto. If possible, a bigger butt, the bumblebee's butt is too big. Shokaku smiled. Sister, what's so funny about you? Aren't you just like me? Ruhi said, you're not as good as me. Xianghe said, you are not ashamed when I laugh. What's there to be ashamed of? Ruhi asked, don't you want me to grow up there? Xianghe screamed and crossed his hands to protect his chest, Ruhi, don't make trouble. Ruhi said, let me rub it for you. The two sisters talked about everything, and Xianghe said funnily, Ruhi's place has become so big. It seems that the Admiral deserves a lot of credit. He rubs it for you every day. Sister, are you envious? Ruhi was not shy, she said, you can do it too. Xianghe said, I'm not envious. Liar. After washing her body with soap and rinsing her body with the shower head in one hand, Ziwihi said, is this how you end it? Xianghe said, that's it. It's a waste of the opportunity I created for you. Ziwihi complained. Xianghe said, I've said it several times, Ziwihi doesn't have to do this. I got it. Xianghe knew that Ziwihi definitely didn't listen. Ziwihi said, sister, do you really not want to be a wedding ship? So what if you want to, so what if you don't want to? Xianghe pursed her lips. She once again remembered that at the fireworks display, the two of them held hands and watched the fireworks and confessed. She didn't know if the Admiral heard it, the Admiral only likes it. Okay, do you want me to ask the Admiral for the ring? Ruhi frowned, sister, are you reminding me? Ziwihi nodded thoughtfully. Just as she finished speaking, Xianghe slapped her on the head. It was the next morning, the sun shone into the room through the window, and the dust was flying in the sun. Sugu held Rodney and sat on the edge of the bed, looking through the photo album. This is Chuangziu Naval Academy, this is me, this is Xiaozai, this is... In the photo, Sugu is leaning on the railing by the lake, Xiaozai is riding on his neck, holding his head with both hands, Lexington is standing on his left, and Saratoga is standing on the right holding his arms. York City stood at the far side with her arms crossed, along with Fletcher and her sisters. Your Aunt Hood, even though she looks presentable in a suit and glasses, her daily job is to drink tea and read the newspaper, mascot chairman. Venus sat next to Sugu and looked at the photos. She had a dark belly. She interrupted, a mascot similar to the Admiral. Talk too much. Sugu tried to slap Venus, but Venus dodged it. Sugu took the photos taken by Colorado and the others when they worked at the frontline base, and pointed at one of them, Xiao Luo, guess who this is? Rodney thought for a long time but didn't have an answer. Sumarez, who had been sitting silently next to her, said, Sister Maryland. Rodney said, don't Sister Maryland have short hair? Her hair has been cut short and grown. She used to look like this. Sugu explained. He looked around, Venus, please don't talk, Xiao Luo, do you guess who this is? Sister West Virginia, Rodney said, she's changed so much. The changes before and after West Virginia's transformation were really big. The girl with a meager figure turned into a lady with a plump bust, waist, and hips. Sugu pointed to one of the people in the photo and said, your Sister Nelson. It's not Sister Nelson. Rodney said, it just looks like her, really. England expects everyone to fulfill their responsibilities. Sugu smiled and said, this is the sailing battleship Victory. Xiao Luo, do you know what it is? Rodney shook his head, I don't know. Turn over the photos one by one. On Children's Day. Trust Night Firefly. The sound of footsteps suddenly came over. Sugu turned around and saw Ruhi walking into the room. He asked, Ruhi, is something wrong? It's okay, you can continue. Ruhi walked to the bookshelf and flipped through it, slandering and shamefully lolicking in his heart. Sugu accompanied the little loli after reading the photo album, then dismissed the little loli. He asked, Ruhi, why did you come to me? Ruhi closed the book, stuffed it into the bookshelf, and said, don't you know? Sugu shook his head, I don't know. Don't pretend to be crazy, Ruhi said, take responsibility for me. I am willing, Sugu said, but your sister doesn't think the affection is enough. Ruhi said, no problem, there is absolutely no problem this time. Let me tell you. Ruhi recounted the conversation between the two sisters in the bathroom last night. Sugu nodded, I understand. I don't want to listen. I know. Give me an answer, today, tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, Ruhi said, even next year is fine. I want some time. Sugu had a troubled expression on his face. Tell me, Ruhi said, what do you want? Is this really okay with you? Sugu said, what you did will let your sister know what she will think. No matter what she thinks. Ziwihi waved his hand. Ruhi stood in front of Sugu and put his hands around his neck. Admiral, don't you want to? Ruhi exhaled like orchid, beautiful sisters, that is a man's ultimate dream. Now you have the opportunity to realize it, don't miss it. Sugu said, you said it nicely. I swear. Ruhi raised his palms. Even if you agree, Sugu said, Xianghe won't accept it, but it still won't work in the end. Leave it to me, sister, I promise it will be fine. Ruhi thought to himself, get on the boat first, then you won't be able to control it later. Sugu said, okay, a ring is a ring, you said so. Ziwihi asked, when? How about today? Sugu suggested. Ruhi left, and Sugu opened the drawer, and there was a small red box lying inside. In fact, Xianghe's ring was already ready with or without Ruhi. Sugu found Xianghe in the room of the two sisters. On a warm sunny afternoon, the woman knelt down next to the short table. The tea leaves were spinning on the short table. The breeze blowing from the window lifted her hair and stretched out her hand. Tuck the loose hair behind your ears, exposing your pure white ear shells, and your silhouette is so charming. Sugu took off his shoes and stepped on the tatami. Xianghe looked at Sugu, and she asked with a smile, Ruhi is looking for you again. Ruhi came to see me. I don't know how much he promised. Sugu laughed, thinking that it was not in vain that he took the initiative to deliver it to his door. Sugu said, but this time I came here not because she is looking for me. She is so beautiful. The way Xianghe looks in his yukata, I really want to walk down the stairs and hold hands with Xianghe at the fireworks display. I heard what Xianghe said at that time. Sugu said, I want to say that I am too. Sugu took out the box containing the ring from his pocket, opened it, revealed the vow ring, and knelt down on one knee. Xianghe, I like you, marry me. Xianghe opened his mouth but made no sound. She saw Sugu's firm eyes and lowered her head. I do. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 982. I can't remember the day I fell in love with the Admiral, I only remember the time when I became a secretary ship. The Admiral left one day. It was a dark day, and it was not easy to get over it. Some people say that time can dilute everything, but there is no forgetting, only missing more. We met again, experienced so much together, several years passed, and now we finally got the ring. Xianghe knelt down on the tatami, put his hands under the table and put them on his thighs together, looking down from time to look at the condom. The oath ring on the ring finger of his left hand, with a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. To be honest, I've been worried whether Xianghe would reject me again. As a ship girl, I am more sensitive than anyone else. It's different this time and the last time. What's the difference? I don't know how to put it, it's just different. A cup of tea was placed in front of him. It would be impossible to just leave. Sugu chatted with Xianghe. I've been married so many times, and yet I dare to say that I like you easily. Xianghe, do you think I'm a scumbag? He is indeed a scumbag and a sentimental man. Hey, there's something wrong with the plot. When the sea breeze blows from afar, the small wind chime hanging on the window ding 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 rings lightly, and a ray of setting sun shines into the room from the window. In the summer, the door is naturally not closed. Airflow is the most important thing. Sugu had his back to the door, so he couldn't see what Xianghe discovered. Zwikaku. Zwikaku. Stop hiding, come in. Xianghe only saw his younger sister Ruhi peeking into the room with her head exposed, then quickly retracting her head. After a few seconds or 10 seconds, she revealed her head again and then retracted again. No matter whether they are out or guarding the mansion, the two close sisters are basically together. This time Xianghe was alone in the room, and it was Ruhi who created opportunities for Sugu. She originally planned to chat with Chumi, or drink a glass of juice and read a magazine in the cafe, but she just sat there for a while, unable to restrain her curiosity, and came over to observe secretly. Leaning against the wall of the corridor, Ruhi heard the call from her sister. She knew she couldn't escape, so she walked into the room with a playful smile. Although he missed the big show when he came here and didn't see the scene where Sugu knelt down to propose, he didn't know what the situation was like here. He only saw the Admiral and his sister chatting, but it didn't stop Ruhi from saying, "Congratulations, sister." Xianghe remained calm. She blinked her eyes and asked in confusion, "Congratulations for what?" "No," Ruhi turned to Sugu and asked with his eyes, "What's going on?" Before Sugu could speak, Xianghe took a sip of tea and said, "Is it you who called the Admiral here?" Ziwihi made a joke. As a Japanese, kneeling is a basic ability. It's not like other people's legs that get sore and swollen immediately after sitting down. But she is not like Xianghe who kneels down dignifiedly and chooses to cross her legs on the tatami. Looking carefree. Ruhi's heart suddenly skipped a beat, and she asked cautiously, "Isn't my sister rejecting the ring again?" "No," he subconsciously clenched his fist with his left hand, and Xianghe said, "If it's not the Admiral's intention and it's just the ring ordered by Ziwihi, then it's okay not to give it up." Ruhi paused, put himself in someone else's shoes, and thought about it. If it were him, no matter how much he liked someone, he would never accept pity, or charity. After a conversation at night, we could see what my sister was thinking, so she went to find the Admiral. Could it be that it was a self-defeating thing? Ruhi looked at Sugu and cursed secretly, "Idiot, won't you deny it, won't you firmly show that you are sincere?" She explained, "No, I'm not threatening or instigating. At most, I'm just reminding you to help you break through the window paper," Ruhi said, reaching out and stabbing Sugu on the waist. When Sugu looked at her, he signaled with his eyes, "Say something quickly, don't be stupid." Ziwihi said, "The Admiral likes my sister." "Yes, when he came back from the fireworks show yesterday, he said that my sister's yukata is really cute, and he also wanted me to wear a yukata at night." Ahem. Sugu interrupted Ruhi with a cough and reminded her to pay attention to Xianghe's hands holding the teacup. At this moment, Ziwihi saw Xianghe's left hand, the vow ring on his finger, and his sister's smiling face. Ruhi laughed. She moved to Xianghe's side, put her arms around Xianghe's neck, and grabbed her hand. "Sister, what is this?" Xianghe said, "The ring." "Don't you want it, sister?" Ruhi said, "It's such a beautiful ring. I like it. Why don't you give it to me?" Xianghe said, "Don't you have one?" Ruhi said, it's not as beautiful as my sister's ring. I want my sister's ring. No, Xianghe refused without joking, this is mine. Ruhi snorted and brushed his bangs with disdain on his face. I just said that I don't want the ring ordered by my sister. If it is the admiral's wish. Xianghe glanced at Sugu and looked away. Ziwehi wrinkled his nose and scoffed. After playing for a while, Ziwehi fell backwards, turned his head to the sound of cicadas chirping and the fan spinning squeak, 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 it's great. My sister got her wish and became the wedding ship. Xianghe smiled knowingly. Sugu looked at Ruhi. He felt that he would die when comparing others, and he would throw away goods when comparing goods. She was really a good sister. He could never find such a person in the town where plastic sisters were everywhere. An accident occurred at this moment. Ruhi stretched a long way. As she stretched, the t-shirt was pulled up, revealing her flat belly and cute little belly button. She reacted and quickly pulled the hem of her clothes. Every time I see my sister kneeling alone in the room, looking at the moon and feeling sad secretly, I get very worried. Sister, you don't have to look at the wedding dress in the closet anymore, by Wugu. It's mine. I caress it gently, admiring it. You can buy it now. You can choose the ring and pair it another day, and you can also order the wedding dress. Buy one with a big tail. And, woo woo woo. It turned out that it was Xianghe who covered Ruhi's mouth. He looked at Sugu again and shook his head. Sugu said, I didn't hear anything. If it were South Dakota, well, there's no need to change it, she has a ring, even though it's for cheating, of course she doesn't think so. South Dakota showed off in front of Washington, in front of Akage, and in front of everyone she knew. When eating, she never forgot to put her left hand on the table. When writing or reading, the ring must be in the most conspicuous place. What's more, when meeting someone, they will reveal their ring and say things like how many carats of diamond is this? I wonder how much it can be sold for. Is the ring white gold or platinum, and similar words. She doesn't care about the value of the ring. As a ship girl, she doesn't care about material things at all. Of course, there are better things. She cares more about feelings. It seems that Helena's favorite thing is always the cheap ring that Sugu gave her at the beginning. There is only that dogtail ring. Missouri was placed in a special box. Hindenburg once took it out as a joke. He also sneered when he saw Missouri. He put it away honestly and did not dare to make too many moves, otherwise he would die. South Dakota is just to spark discussion and to show off. After returning to the town hall, South Dakota just spent a day letting everyone know about his ring. This seems easy, but the difficulty lies in the little loli who doesn't care about gossip. There are still little girls who can't figure out what Sugu's wedding ships are. There are too many. Counterattack sister turns out to be a wedding ship. She never shows off or shows off. Mutsu sister turns out not to be a wedding ship. She is so intimate. Changchun turns out not to be a wedding ship, but I heard she has a ring. Is sister CV-16 a wedding ship? But everyone knew her, and South Dakota had the ring. Xianghe is not a South Dakota and doesn't like to show off everywhere. By the time of dinner, most people still knew that she had gotten the ring. The reason was that Ruhi was so excited that he shouted everywhere and told the garrison. He was even happier than when he got the ring. Look. Beef with tomatoes, scrambled eggs with leeks, and a chicken drumstick. Sugu thought for a while. Lobster, I want another lobster. So Admiral, You are getting fatter and fatter. You eat so much every day. Chungqing is wearing a chef's hat, a green high-cut cheongsam and a white apron. Today she is responsible for serving everyone food, and her hands are constantly moving. He keeps complaining. That's all, nothing more. Sugu said, you haven't seen my 8-pack abs. Okay, what I said was wrong, a serving of green vegetables must be eaten. This is what Yuxian ordered, Chungqing said and handed the bowl to Sugu. Even if you don't like eating vegetables, you still have to eat them, as my wife orders. Sugu took the bowl, walked to the side and scooped out a bowl of seaweed and egg drop soup, and saw Mutsu head on. The two of them found a dining table and sat down. Mutsu said, Xianghe became a wedding ship. Yes, Sugu admitted, confidently, he didn't want to explain now. It's finally over. At the public trial, sisters were called one by one in order to survive. Now they have finally become sisters. Mutsu couldn't wait to say, my ring, the admiral will give it to me when he is ready. Except for the closest step, everything happened between the two of them. The closest step was to wait until she got the ring. In fact, Sugu couldn't help herself several times, but Mutsu still persisted despite being distracted. She was not a casual person, although she was not a casual person. She couldn't get on the boat first and then pay for it. The ring must be given, otherwise something will definitely happen. Sugu said, there's no rush. Washington is 18, Xianghe is 19, it's my turn to be 20. Mutsu cracked his fingers and looked at Sugu with resentful eyes. Sugu said, well, I gave Xianghe a ring during the day and gave it to you again that night. What do you want others to think and what do you think of me? That's right, Mutsu said reasonably, then tomorrow will be fine. Tomorrow. Sugu's shoulders were slumped and his voice was very long, what's the difference between tomorrow and today? Mutsu spread her fingers and waved them in front of Sugu, and she said, 5 days, we can't delay it any longer. 1 month. Sugu felt something was a little wrong. In the whole world, this kind of bargaining was probably only found in his own garrison. Mutsu said, half a month is a long time. Sugu wanted to say something more, but the sound of pop sounded, and Ruhi slapped the table. It was clear that someone was causing trouble on her sister's wedding day, and she was not happy. You are forcing me to get married. Mutsu squinted at Ziwahi, I want you to take care of it. Who cares if I don't care? Ruhi sat down next to Sugu, I am a wedding planner, and I will express my opinion now. I am opposed to this marriage. Mutsu said, yesterday, no, wasn't it agreed the day before yesterday? Ruhi asked knowingly, treating his promise before the fireworks display as nothing, why don't I know what was promised? Mutsu said, you little girl. Seeing what happened to Mutsu, Sugu should have thought of it. Darkness enveloped the earth and the lights were on. When Sugu finally found Ruhi alone, he leaned on the railing of the corridor, Ruhi, it's agreed, sisters. I only have the ring, and the wedding hasn't even started yet, so I'm thinking about my sisters. Ruhi sighed and shook his head, I really don't feel worthy for my sister. Sugu explained, no. Is your sister getting married just because of her sister? Ruhi asked Sugu, her finger almost touching his nose. Let me ask you, do you really like your sister, or do you want a sister? Sugu said, I really like Xianghe, but... Ziwahi crossed his hands in front of his chest and shook his head, there is no but. Ruhi messed around from beginning to end, and finally patted Sugu on the shoulder and said, don't worry, there will be bread, there will be butter, there will be everything, and the sisters will also have it. Let's not talk about sisters and other things, Lexington has eaten too much of the big cake. If you don't have it, you won't have it. You have no hope at all. You know what the final result will be from the beginning. Sugu also just talking casually, he was silent for a moment and said, wedding dress, Bai Wagwan, uniform, we can't go back on this. Ruhi hesitated, but he couldn't go too far. Don't worry, I will never go back on my word, next time. Sugu's expression was a little better, but he was actually just talking casually and joking. As usual. Late at night, after Sugu took a shower and wiped his hair with a dry towel, he walked out of the bathroom and returned to the bedroom. He saw Xianghe sitting on the edge of the bed in a bathrobe, reading a book with his head lowered and his long hair tied up. Xianghe had already discovered Sugu, but she didn't say anything because she didn't know what to say. This is the first time I have experienced this kind of thing. Ziwihe has said before that he doesn't like reading novels, but I have read the novels written by Daifeng very well. I have read similar scenes in the books. Now I dare to talk about the psychology of the heroine. The description is all bullshit. Yes, Daifeng is just a virgin who is very good at making up stories. Admiral, what are you looking at? Xianghe felt that his admiral's gaze was a little burning, and he subconsciously shrank his neck. I didn't see anything. Sugu looked away, recalling Xianghe's graceful, snow-white nape and a few naughty strands of hair, which had a kind of subtle beauty, and finally understood the existence of nape control. Sugu sat down next to Xianghe and pressed his body against Xianghe. As a man, he should take the initiative. Asshole, I still want sisters after all. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 983. From then on, Xianghe was responsible for sleeping for several days. No, it would be more appropriate for Sugu to accompany her. To exaggerate the reason, a certain person is now everyone's toy. The dream life of flipping brands every day has never existed from the beginning and is out of reach. In addition, it made those who heard it sad and those who heard it shed tears. Several days passed and there were still no sisters. The shameless accuser Ziwihe, and this world full of lies. Back to business. Marrying Xianghe, for Sugu, finally settled one thing. The turmoil of giving the ring to Xianghe but being rejected has now been completely eliminated, and Ruhi will no longer be entangled in others. A week after Xianghe became a wedding ship, several sisters were sitting together in a coffee shop. Brothers and friends respect each other, and sisters have a deep love? It's a pity that the closest sisters have to part ways now. Suzwe held the juice in his hands. Mikuma asked, how do you say that? Brothers are like brothers and sisters, daughters are like clothes. There are so many people who have lost their hands and feet. Where can you find someone who doesn't wear clothes? Suzwe gossiped and gossiped. It seems like a good sister in Lexington. She doesn't do anything for her sister. I am willing to do anything, as long as it involves the admiral. Megama said, it turns out that my younger sister Ziwikaku is a marriage ship, but my older sister Siankeku is not, but it is different now. Just like in those palace fighting novels, the two sisters used to be very close. The elder sister married into the palace wall first, and the relationship between the two sisters remained the same, and soon when the younger sister also marries into the palace, the two immediately compete for favor, and the sisters engage in intrigues and turn against each other. Mikuma said, this is the time when the relationship between sisters breaks down. Kumino shook his head and said, but Ruhi has supported his sister's marriage from the beginning, without any obstruction, and even bothered the admiral every day, insisting that he marry Xianghe. Xianghe and Ziwihe were sitting at the table next to them, and the voice came over. I don't know why there is a uniform maniac. Anyway, he is a uniform maniac. Yukata, wedding dress, shakushui, bruma, maid outfit, sister, you can try it, it will definitely work. Sister, let me tell you, to capture a man's stomach is to capture a man's heart. I know a few things that the admiral likes to eat. Even if it can't compare to Yuxian, Fuzang, sister's cooking skills, Lexington is definitely no match. Sisters working together can break gold. Lexington was sunk by us in 5 battles in history, and it can be done today. There can only be one wife in the Coral Sea, and that is the shokaku. After being slapped in the face, their faces were swollen. The three sisters were silent and asked Kumino, "My little sister wants to be Ziwahi. When she gets rich in the future, don't forget her sister." Kumino waved his hands quickly, "I can't do it. Suzuya, among our sisters, you are the most likely to be Suzuya." Mikuma said, "Suzuya, don't forget your sister in the future." Suzuya smiled charmingly and said, "Seriously, if I become a wedding ship in the future, none of you will want to be a wedding ship?" Megami said, "Admiral, there are so many wedding ships, don't you want your sister to become a wedding ship and help you?" Mikuma nodded, "That's right." Suzuya said, "You definitely can't be like Ziwahi. You will help my sister wholeheartedly and you will definitely compete with me for favor. Only one of the top leaders is enough, at most, my little sister can do it. She is too weak and easy to control. Think about it, but it still won't work. People always grow up, and men like pure, ignorant little girls, she's just right. Any threat is nipped in the bud. An expert in civil war, an amateur in foreign war, that's it." Time passes day by day. The garrison in the south has been experiencing strong sunshine for a week. No matter who dares to walk barefoot on the concrete floor, one of the top 10 forbidden dishes is called roast duck feet. No one dares to challenge the iron climbing frame located in the outdoor playground unless it is early morning or evening. For little Lolita fun, choose an indoor playground. When Sugu is bored, he likes to come here to sit and watch little Lolita play on slides, seesaws, rocking tigers, etc., and then it quickly turns into a sea ball battle, with everyone holding many sea balls and smashing them here and there. "Come over." He would be spanked several times every time, and he would do what he said, picking up the little girl who hit him every time he made a mistake, and kiss her cute face. Another question is this a punishment or a reward? The little otaku is the cutest in the world, the little princess's fanciful little butt makes people fall in love with her, the love-brained Claxton's character only has one word of like, Rodney is innocent and childlike, every little loli is different. Every little loli is great. During this period of time, Sugu liked to run to the U-boat dormitory. Bullying the little loli is the most interesting, U-47 doesn't care at all, U-505 is about the same, and only U-81 is the shyest. When she is hugged, her body immediately becomes stiff and her face becomes red, so it is her. Sugu hugged U-81 and put one hand around her soft belly to prevent her from running away. He saw that U-96's bed, desk, wardrobe, and drawers were full of fruits and canned fruits. Hamster cancer patients will never leave empty-handed every time they eat in the cafeteria, visit the warehouse, or go to the cafe. Before leaving, they must grab a few fruits or cans. The results will be achieved over time. Sugu took a pear at this time. Before he could say anything, he only heard U-96 say, "Mine." What he wanted was this effect. Sugu took the pear and looked at it from left to right. He said, "It's round and shiny, and it looks delicious. I don't know where I learned it, maybe I went shopping with Prince Eugene, San Juan, etc." U-96 nodded seriously, "It's so bright and shiny, it must have been waxed, eating it is not good for your health. If it has been waxed, as long as you scratch it with your fingernails, white wax will appear." Sugu almost laughed and scratched the pear with his fingers. Obviously, this pear has not been waxed and can be eaten. U-96 said again, "The more beautiful it is, the less delicious it is. The prettier it is, the more delicious it will be." Sugu said, "Anyway, you'll know after one bite. If it doesn't taste good, throw it away. If it doesn't taste good, you can't throw it away." U-96 was reluctant to part with it. I don't know how U-96 developed his character. It was useless to mention it several times. Sugu was too lazy to care. He shook the pear and asked, U-96, "I eat it, is it okay?" On April Fool's Day, Mr. Sookbader caught him. It has been several months now. On the one hand, U-96 is just a young girl. She doesn't have that much thought. She only needs to take care of her food and shelter. On the other hand, Sugu has acted as the little lowly killer has never been defeated so far, so naturally she has been recognized for a long time. After all, it was the Admiral, so U-96 was reluctant to part with him, and finally gritted his teeth and said, "Admiral, eat it." Sugu didn't just let it go. He put the pear in front of U-81 and asked her, "U-81 wants to eat it?" U-81 shook his head, "I don't want to eat it." Not cooperative at all. Sugu thought this, and as punishment, he bit U-81's ear, then looked at U-47 and asked, "Does U-47 eat pears?" Half of the summer vacation has passed, and the summer vacation homework has not been touched yet. I must work hard. The first is teacher Rodney's homework, and this is the only one that we must not slack off on. U-47 is lying on the desk, writing homework quickly. Copying homework is more accurate. It comes from a well-deserved academic master, wearing Z28 number with round eyes. It is said that there was a little lowly who sneaked into the faculty office to look for answers and was caught. Helena then forced Helena to stand for an hour and run around the playground 10 times, during which her dreams doubled. Later, I went to the Chuangzhou bookstore to look for a few torn-out answer sheets from the exercise books. Little did I know that these exercise books were nowhere to be found. They came from the Chuangzhou Naval Academy. Afterwards he was discovered and punished again. U-47 knew that the Admiral was teasing U-96 again, and she liked to join in the fun. At that time, she turned around and lay on the back of the chair. "Eat?" Sugu asked U-505 again. U-505 is neither above nor below. She is not as skinny as U-47, nor is she like U-81. She sat on the edge of the bed reading comics with a big doll in her arms, and raised her hand, "I want to eat too." Sugu held the pear and nodded thoughtfully, "There are only one pear among 3 people, which is not enough." "That's enough," U-96 said, "U-47 and U-505 are still children, and they will feel full after eating a little." "Okay," Sugu added, "but pears cannot be divided, because pear is a homophone for separation." U-96 said, "Why do you separate pears? Don't you often separate pears?" In Sugu's hometown, people are superstitious and fastidious. In fact, in other words, they don't follow it that much, and everyone in the governor's office is even less particular about this. Although sometimes I have to be careful, I would rather believe what I have than what I don't believe, and I definitely don't want to be separated from everyone and the Admiral. Sugu finally asked, U-96, "Do you want to eat?" U-96 answered quickly, "Yes." "It's better not to give it up," Sugu said, "U-96 has so many pears." Out of desperation, U-96 said, "I want to eat the pear peeled by the Admiral." Sugu suddenly laughed and rubbed U-96's head. It was so cute. Another night, it was Hood's room. "Admiral Su, I have long admired your name." Wearing beautiful black-rimmed glasses and long, silky golden hair draped over his shoulders, Hood wore a blue dress today, as well as long black gloves, black silk garters and blue pointed toe high heels. To be honest, there is an inconsistency. The ginger fish cake is lying next to it. It is definitely not Bismarck's Oscar. Could it be Kent's ferocious tiger? It is somewhat possible. Where did Hood's plump bust come from? Anyway, Consultant Su said something, but got no answer, saying it was a secret, and complained in his heart, "I have never seen every part of your body, is it interesting to keep it a secret?" Anyway, from now on, Hood doesn't look like an English lady or young lady at all. She looks like a social butterfly, very charming. It turns out to be Miss Hood. "Nice to meet you." Although Sugu's breasts are a little smaller, Sugu likes Hood very much and is often in her room. As he was talking, he suddenly frowned. "No, Hood, that's not right." "Ah." The game was temporarily over, and Hood asked, "What's wrong?" Sugu took a good look at Hood and discovered the problem: it's too low. The slit of the skirt is too low. I remember that the slit in the picture in the magazine was very high, and half of the model's lace underwear was exposed. Hood lowered his head and she said, "It's almost done." Sugu said, "It's much worse, it's far worse." Sugu almost became furious. If they do this, who will buy their clothes in the future? "Come here, come here, come here." Huda looked at Sugu, and she thought to herself, a certain person is very talkative. When he sees a magazine or beautiful clothes, he will most likely buy them and let everyone wear them for him to see. He can't wait for a moment. The worry is gone. Hood said, change it, it will change, Admiral, don't worry." Sugu said, tomorrow I will find a reputation to change it. The slit must be high." Okay, Hood felt a little helpless for a moment. Anyway, the game continues. Huda stretched out his hand towards Sugu and said, "Admiral Sug, a world-famous admiral, it is better to meet him than to be famous." "It's no big deal." Sugu also stretched out his hand. The two shook hands, and when they separated, Hood clasped Sugu's palm, with a meaningful smile on his lips. Sugu looked understanding and stretched out his hand to wrap around Hood's slender waist. "Admiral Sug, don't be anxious." Hudejiao smiled and pushed Sugu away. "Let's have a drink first." Hood walked to the desk, where there was a bottle of red wine and 2 wine glasses. She poured wine into the 2 glasses and walked back to hand Sugu a glass. Sugu was about to drink, but Huda stopped him with a very seductive smile. "Let's have a drink." The 2 people's arms were hooked. Hood took a sip first. Seeing that Sugu didn't move, she asked, "Why doesn't Admiral Su drink?" Sugu smiled half-heartedly, "I dare not drink the legendary sleepy black tea." Hood's expression changed and became unnatural. "I don't understand what Admiral Su said." "Just kidding." Sugu held up the wine glass. "Otherwise Miss Hood, no, I should say Royal Agent Miss Hood, drank this glass of wine." "Admiral Su is joking. What kind of royal agent?" Hood tucked a piece of his long blonde hair behind his ear. Sugu said, "It's not funny." "Unexpectedly, you actually know my identity." "In that case," Hood said, lightly kicking his leg. Sugu blocked Hood's whipping leg and pushed her back. Hood squatted on the ground and lifted up the long skirt of the dress, revealing his white and sexy thighs that were originally covered. There was a ribbon tied to it and a small pistol tied to it. Hood took out the gun and just raised it. Sugu grabbed her hand first and threw her on the bed. "Miss Hood, your mission has failed now. Tell me, what is your purpose of targeting me, what?" Hood cooperated and threw himself on the bed. He flicked his blonde hair and turned his head. "I won't tell." "Don't tell me? Don't blame me for being ruthless if you don't tell me." Hood saw Sugu approaching him, tugging at his collar, and saying in a panic, "What are you going to do?" Sugu smiled grimly. "What do you think? The boudoir games are over and the real drama begins." However, the plan failed to catch up with the change. Sugu had just rushed forward and knocked down Hood. He felt a pain in his chest and moved to the side. "What is it? What is knocking me?" "Hood, what is the disguise of your breasts that are so hard?" "Is it hard?" Hood rubbed his chest, curled up like a shrimp, and chuckled. "Unforgivable." Sugu rubbed his chest and threw Hood down again. "Night moon and flowers in the morning. No need to go into details." Next, it was mid-August when Hood's gown was repaired a few days later and the slit was high enough to be satisfactory.